Covered in blood, sweat, and grime, a soul man stands alone holding the Holy Grail, the one thing that would let him see his family again. Making his wish, a light bursts forth from the stone and envelops him into the next scene. Kim Dae-rim steps before his manager to ask for an early leave, and it's granted readily. The other people look over at the poor man as he leaves. Up until recently, he's been perfectly fine. The department head has had it with people snooping and tells those who aren't working to get out already. He's only nice to Mr. Dae-rim. Speaking of the man himself, Kim gathers a few things on his way home and makes his way through a flower shop, a local food place, and finally his front door. Making dinner for himself and his family, the sad father can barely enjoy his meal without remembering how his wife used to make it. Much less anything good on her birthday. His words. Man, we're not even 200 words in and my heart feels for this guy. Kim eventually stomachs his way through the food, has a shower, and sits down to open his journal. As he had promised, Kim would always leave work early to celebrate his wife's birthday. Even through his sadness, he hopes that they would have enjoyed the soup he made for his wife and daughter. Despite following the recipe to a T, it still turned out very bland. It seems his family were the unfortunate victims of a serial killer attack, leaving poor Kim alone and vulnerable. Kim can only repeat that he wants to see them over and over, remembering the blood-stained floor he found the two of them lying on. After finally admitting to himself that he's become such a miserable loner, Kim watches somewhat silently as his journal lights up from the pages before his very eyes. The words are stripped from his book, replaced by blank pages and something that sparks a sliver of hope in the man's heart. You can see them again. Your wife and your daughter, reads the text. Instant mail from another world? There's an idea, manhwa artists. Yet again, a few days later, Kim asks to leave early. The department head is a bit more questioning this time, but concedes as he's worked hard already. Guess they aren't eating out today. Getting home, Kim begins to examine this little diary of his. The pages he's been writing have all vanished and were replaced by journal entries of the future. Thus far, they had all happened just as the book predicted. Everything had been going according to the new pages and their scribbles. If what was written here was true, he could see his wife and daughter again and would be isekai'd at 10 p.m. that night. Keeping an eye on the clock, the time began to draw near and Kim could only stand in terror as the future came true. His environment filled with mighty bright blue light. The moment his eyes spring open, Kim thinks he's in the gym because it's outside in the sunshine despite being at night, but finds more people and a forest looking around. The book had also come with him. Of course it had. MC gotta have that plot item. For some bizarre reason, I can't think why besides the global trend, the parallel world presents itself as a game. The system announces its tutorial time and everyone must choose a weapon. Failure to do so within 1 minute would grant you a sword. Of course, many people had tried to be clever and wish for a gun. The system does not appreciate the cheek and instead rewards them with bow and no arrows. It then alerts them that the zombies are gathering. To survive this stage, they would defend themselves. Of course, being the protagonist, Kim makes the first moves. Cutting down the hordes, his stats and points begin to rise like no tomorrow. The more flesh his blade rends, the faster he scales up. Magic is the most important stat here, and Kim's is resting at 14. The announcer eventually acclaims that 198 have survived into round 2. Now their task is to earn the most points. Only the top 100 people on the scoreboard will live, and if they really want to, they can kill each other to steal the points of other people. Of course, many are against this decision, but in panic, swords are turned to the closest neighbor. Kim brazenly summarizes that this is no different than turning their rage on the undead, and he begins to walk away, going into the wilderness to survive on his own, but is quickly caught up to by a girl named Chungyu. She asks if she can tag along, but is told the equivalent of a middle finger. She sulks away as her plan to hide behind the strong is foiled. Immediately, Kim makes for the dungeon described in his book, a narrow entrance located in the mountainside, enough crawl space for one person at a time. But even if the monsters inside were far stronger than those zombies, it would be worth it if he could jump ahead of the competition. Being spacious inside, he's attacked the second he sets foot in its halls. The first monster to be encountered was a carnivorous bug, a tenacious one, but the rewards for killing it are greater. The way forward would be simple as killing everything in sight. The rewards given would vary depending on the achievements, so Kim ought to gather up what he can. Next on the chopping block were moss ants, weaker individually but always moving in groups. The ones who meet him aim for his bread, which Kim cleverly uses as a distraction, beginning his killing rampages once again. Ant after ant, they all fall to his way of the sword. One manages to nip Kim in the back, but it fails to kill him. 6, then 3. 1 left. Putting his blade through the beast's skull, the last ant finally falls as the stars align to give Kim a skill. Not a bad one at that. And the book says that other people are also to enter the dungeon tomorrow, but he can't seem to flip the page where this happens. The book won't let him read the future beyond a day. For whatever reason, he was also the only one to receive this book, giving rise to the intense questions. Why? Who sent this to him from the future? Why was he chosen? What was the Holy Grail? Outside in the forest, the man in second place is not pleased about this fact of life. Grow up, Sonny. This isn't League. And who else but Jung-Yu informs this meathead on who the first ranker is. Revenge is a harsh mistress, lady. Jung-Yu informs that she knows where he's gone and will tell Mr. Meathead on the condition she gets to kill the man he's held hostage. He agrees, but she'll also have to do something more to earn her freedom. Okay. Hopefully you die horribly in some way, you sicko. Jung strikes the man to death just as Kim is killing more ants in the caves, skyrocketing his stats in comparison to what they are. Standing for only a moment to rest, Kim is notified that he's found a boss monster. He's already twice as strong as a normal person, so just maybe he could take this thing down on his own. He's quickly rewarded by the system for having the most points. For his achievements, he has been awarded 8 total stat points which are randomly allocated, and 3 days worth of food rations. Needless to say, it will help, and Kim uses some of his newly acquired bread as bait for the hungry ant army. Cutting the distracted little ones apart, the boss sends her almost endless army after him, and one by one they are all cut down. If he didn't have his new skill, even if it's E rank, he would have been in a very bad position. When fighting through her armies with vigor, Kim ensures that each one meets a quick and not so painful end. When the queen is the only one left, he turns around and flips the sword blade to his underhand, pulling a Goku and disappearing instantly, to arrive without warning above her. Once through her skull, the blade digs deep into the queen's brain and forces the mother monster to screech a dying breath. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the cave, a 4-man group comes in with Jung-Yu as the 5th wheel. Trudging along, the second-rank meathead gives his verbal opinion on this place, but the woman cheers him up, or tries, by saying that someone was clearly here before them, meaning that Kim Dae-rim has to have been here, or better yet, is currently here. The guy gets a nasty grin when expressing internally his joy at ripping the man apart to steal his experience. For defeating the Queen Moss Ant, Kim has earned an achievement and Moss Ants will no longer spawn in the dungeon, meaning his skills are now one of a kind. He'd also acquired a new skill from it, which would cover him in thick, strong membrane when used. It would also grow with his magic, getting stronger as he does. In this world, the most important trifecta are stats, skills, and items, in that order. Lo and behold, in the back of the dungeon, a new item is acquired by our little protagonist from a shining chest. We don't get to see what it is, of course we don't, that would be too easy, but we know it's special. Coming in from the outside, the excursion finally finds the littered about corpses Kim left in his wake, and rounding a corner, Mr. Second Rank sees the corpse of the giant Moss Ant Queen alongside Kim himself stepping out of the back rooms. In a bout of intense fear, the meathead lets him pass. Jung-Yu whines at him for this action, asking what the fluff he was thinking. But Meathead has finally realized his mistake of focusing solely on player kills. He should have raised his stats by repeatedly killing monsters. He'd made a very grave mistake here and would pay the price in the coming rounds. The final 100 survivors are shortly teleported into a new room that evening, Kim's eyes jolting open to the sight of 3 colored doors. The system explains that they are difficulties. 1 person through the white door will instantly pass the tutorial. 5 people through the blue door will face a challenge, but it won't be much harder than what they experienced already. And the red door will allow 10 people to pass, but has the greatest challenge. There is no guarantee of survival. A man quickly gets up and makes his beeline for the white door, but he can't even open the darn door. The rules state that in descending order, the people from most to least points will select their doors. Everyone rages at how this is an unfair rule, and get good, scrubs. And it would be bloody obvious which door the top-ranking Kim would choose. Oh, is it now? Playing the 9000 IQ move, Kim defies expectation and picks the red door. This makes a lot of other people relieved, as now not only do the ones going that route have a chance at survival, but the white door is also up for grabs. Until it isn't. The second to choose takes the easy way out and angers everyone. Why did they pick the white door? Because there was no guarantee everyone else would follow the leader that is Kim Dae-rim. As the doors begin to open for their accepted persons, one moron again tries to take the easy way out and quickly rush the white door. He slams his head into the invisible wall and almost gets killed by Park Joo-ho, the door's chooser, for what he did. Kim bluntly halts his arm and says this sorry man ain't worth the trouble. Surprised at the sheer difference in strength, Juho wishes him good luck and marches through his colored gateway to paradise. The man lays there in fear and refuses to move, letting all the doors close as he stays behind and hears a whooshing sound all around him. Suddenly, the room is engulfed in flames, all spiraling angrily towards him. Before the man can even comprehend the situation he's in, the guy's incinerated with a loud and ugly scream. Kim and another 2 people arrive in a village. They all exchange names. The woman is Kim Eun-ji, I'll call her by her last name, and the man is Yoo Jung-kyu, who had quite obviously killed someone to get this far. The stains on his shirt are enough proof. But hey, at least a whimpering and cowardly man is more useful than a loud and proud idiot. Hopefully. The system explains this 3rd stage simply. Defend the rock in the town center from whatever hordes will approach, twice a day for 10 days. A total of 20 waves will storm this village and they have to survive it all. Though the outskirts of the village are perfectly safe. Now that's just evil. This means that they either have to stick together and defend or leave a minimum of 1 person to defend the rock all on their own. In the case that no survivors are present in the village, the closest one will be teleported back in. Kim stops dead to ask these 2 what they're going to do. Stay and fight or run and escape. This takes both Eun-ji and Yoo off guard. One asks if they will even be able to survive this test as it's supposedly hard even with 10 people. But our bright boy delightfully informs her that the part about it being hard is likely a ruse. The reason? Because it's likely only 1 or 2 people would fight, while the rest would run and hide in the forest. It must have told them for a reason, right? Kim apologizes for suspecting them of running, but they no doubt would have had thoughts like this. Who wouldn't? Yoo surprisingly tells him that even if they run, nothing would change. They would all end up back in the village anyway. Kim agrees with the sentiment that to survive this, they would all need to fight together. In the diary, Kim had chosen the blue door, meaning he knew nothing about this place nor its contents. What he does know is that after this, they will all be gathered together at the same place for the 4th stage of the tutorial, and those who had come out of this door in his little book had become unreasonably strong over the rest of them. Jiyeon angrily pipes up that he shouldn't see this as a game. They were real people, and the fact there are more monsters to hunt here. Without a second to rest, the floor opens up beneath them. Eun-ji screams and Young readies his sword, while a blue hand with jagged nails claws its way out. Soon, an army of goblin demons is on the surface with them, all wielding blades. Within minutes, Kim and Ko have their tasks set out for them. He tells the 2 of them to guard the rock so it doesn't break, and almost without hesitation charges towards the oncoming forces. Taking 3 out in a single swift movement, he now has their attention and then some. As if these creatures are freaking paper, and the utter bewilderment of his onlookers, Kim rages through their ranks. A goblin goes for Jung and is successfully parried, much to its surprise. Now in the heat of battle and hoping the other 2 can survive on their own, Kim just barely dodges a cut to his face that leaves a small scar on the throat. Skin of your teeth, huh bro? Decimating the goblin in front of him, another jumps at him from behind. His Solidify skill activates just in time and blocks the attempted blade to his back, leaving the goblin confused for only a second before its head is taken off. Once he's been saved, Kim quickly grips his blade and charges to help the other 2. Once this first wave is clear, they all rest at the boulder to catch their breath. Eun-ji has a very broad cut across her right shoulder. Kim comes closer and tells her to bandage it up and get some sleep for now. Their stats are higher than any normal person's, so with some rest, she'll be fine. With Jung's help, Eun-ji managed to patch up her arm enough to get some rest, and Kim begins to think that should things get worse, he may have to fight these battles alone. Sitting at the rock that evening with Jung soon joining him, the young man thanks Kim for doing all that he has to help him and Eun-ji. As you can probably tell, he wants to say something more, so Kim tells him to just spit it out. The boy finally says, "I didn't kill him because I wanted to." Looking at the blood-soaked shirt he's wearing, Jung says that he acted in self-defense. Kim finally seems to realize that he made a mistake in judgment last episode, and consoles the poor kid. Right as he notices, where did Eun-ji go? Searching everywhere for her, neither Kim nor Young can find a trace of the woman. She was probably scared off by the injury and being less capable in a fight, and it's not like she was much use before, so fair enough. Likely assuming the 2 of them will survive this and she won't be teleported back in, the girl had left the village. When Kim isn't too worried, more annoyed than anything else really, he says the fact that worrying about this betrayal won't do them any good. For a second time, Kim and Jung are again attacked by one of the 2 daily waves. This time, the man seems to be holding his own quite well. Saving himself again with Solidify, a goblin's blade shatters on impact, and the ugly little creature is kicked away from him with force to spare. A clean cut later, and it's split in half at the torso with a blinding flash of blue. And Kim sees a goblin about to backstab Young. With quick thinking, he yeets a rock which hits the creature in the cheek, blasting it out of the air just in time. It's not long before they reach the fall of night. Having successfully defended the village, the two collapse in tiredness as they clear the first day, just resting. With one day clear, there are only 9 left. His diary had said that the first day was 1 random stat as a reward, the second day was 2, the third day was 3, and so on. By doing a bit of simple math, you can earn a total of 55 random stats by survival alone. On top of all this, there's also the extra reward at the end of the tutorial. Meanwhile, at the outer edges of the village, Eunji the betrayer is enjoying some rations she never earned, and wondering if the other two would be alright. Trying to convince herself that running away was the best idea and that she'd die otherwise. When she begins to ask the question if they would die, Eunji shakes herself out of it. A man like Kim Dae-rim wouldn't perish. He's too strong. By day 4, the two had fought moving trees, giant rats, orcs, and the demon goblins. Seeing Young's bleeding leg, Kim rips off a piece of his own shirt to bandage up the boy. When asked if Kim thinks he'd survive, Jung actually starts crying. He's all his family of siblings has left. He has to go back. He has to take care of them when no one else will. Kim says that he won't die. He'll be taken care of and taught to survive in order to go home. Remembering peaceful times with his wife, Kim's baby rolls over in her crib, and his wife is rather sad she didn't catch it. He did, but refuses to let her see as a tease, and for his playfulness, gets a shoulder punch. Tsundere wife. Lucky. The baby's noises catch their attention, and the wife says the child must be hungry, so she goes to fetch a baby bottle. While Kim enjoys time with his baby, she comes back in with joy on her face. And that is where sweet memory fades to painful reality. She's no longer with them. Neither of the two are. The only thing that waits for them is day 10 of the tutorial, and thus far, it's been eerily quiet. No monsters whatsoever have come up to meet them today, and the system will not be lenient enough to give them 0 waves on the final day. Though it seems as though Eunji's not coming back anytime soon. They eventually find a small crack in the rock they are guarding. Kind of hard to miss when it's glowing with an ominous blue light and a miniature earthquake. As the two men watch from a distance, the rock cracks and bursts on its own. When finished, the system warns that the boss monster trapped by the boulder seal has been released. A demon lick has entered the arena. Kim tells Young to buy him some time against the lick by taking good care of their skeletal friends in the rear. With a look into each other's eyes, the Kim and Lick initiate a fight between themselves and run for each other. A huge cut is made in the lick, but it's not enough. While Kim is fighting, Young uses his new skill, a deal with the devil, to take care of the Skeleboys. Making more long, large cuts on the lick, Kim dashes across its fleshy back with a sword embedded into the skin, ripping it a new one. The lick screams in agony and charges toward the nearest house, leaving Kim very little time to react and even less time to dodge. Just barely does he manage to make it off the beast's back in time to avoid getting pancaked. He's unpleasantly surprised when the lick's screams are heard through the rubble and smoke. But things just keep getting better and better. The beast's wounds close and regenerate as if nothing had scratched it in the first place. And from around a corner in silence and unbridled shock, Jian can only wonder what the ever-living this bony bull is made out of. Bones? Meat? Magic? All three? Or worse? Wondering how the fresh flying heck they got that strong. It should be obvious by now. Come on, lady. She'd come back thinking that they would potentially die. Instead, she's the weakest one in this tutorial. That's not healthy for your fingers. Kim laments that this thing may be unbeatable, unless it has some kind of weakness somewhere. Maybe that tiny glowing stone in his forehead? Slipping away from its tail whip, Kim brazenly cuts a piece of the beast's tail off and watches in terror as a golden light crawls its skin, bringing back what was just detached. Since an eviction of its limbs won't work, maybe one to that thick skull might. Gathering his remaining strength, the man of many a stature bolts to action, and the rotting carcass of a cow roars at him with frustration. He manages to get above it and uses this high ground, hello there general, to carve a vicious crater into its demented skull. Of course, it begins to heal instantly, but a tiny light through the huge crack gives a spark of inspiration toward the next move. Or it would if Young had not come flying furiously to his side from an impending explosive. A mage in the enemy rear appears to have a skeleton of spells at the ready, surrounded by foot soldiers in defense. Does it have a blue eye too? Having not finished their battle, the annoyed lick thwacks Kim with its tail in a polite request to return to form. It also charges him out of desperation, and if not for Solidify, Kim would have gotten a nigh instant death. Easy, Mr. Mincemeat. He knows you're impatient to be diced. Calling upon his other fresh skill, Vital Strength, Kim survives the encounter still kicking. It was also the perfect opportunity for him. This big loaf of beef had just shoved its weak point into the protagonist's face. A single blow is all it takes for the entire scenario to end. The demon lick had been defeated. The Skello boys would no longer move. Kim survived, somehow, from underneath the giant bones and rubble. And just as the two men celebrate their victory over the monstrous creature from the grave, finally stopping to release the tension and celebrate their victory, Young can't help but confirm with his new friend that this is finally over. "I guess," says the protagonist. But as he does, the figure behind Young doesn't seem to cherish the moment as he does. For who else but Eunji decides to make her twisted face known by stabbing her former teammate through the chest. As this vile human of a woman removes her blade from Young's chest, Kim screams something at her that I can't read aloud. Sorry. She seems flabbergasted that she had killed a person, just like that. Yeah, that tends to happen when you put a pointy piece of metal through them. Having gone verifiably insane, Eunji tries to tell herself and Kim that they were going to kill her for running, so this is nothing more than a precaution. They've already killed, so they'd have no problem doing it. Seems her marbles are a bit too far down the drain. She wasn't about to die here. She had to live. And they didn't even know if this would be the end of the tutorial. Spoiler alert, it is for you. Because the one mistake you side characters should never make is peeving the main character. While she goes on about being able to get achievement points from player kills as well, and how Kim would die next, the man raises his sword and takes her arm clean off. Once Eunji has realized her mistake, it's too late to turn and run. Because what goes around, comes around. With use of his vital strength yet again, Kim stands up and approaches the unstable woman who begins to scream for her life. He wasn't anywhere close to dying from something like this. And returning her favor, Eunji's head rolls off her now limp shoulders. Seeing that Young is still alive, and on death's doorstep ringing the bell, Kim pulls a hat trick from his pockets and empties a strange bottle of liquid onto his friend's grievous wound. With the strange magical glow we've come to expect by now, the wound begins to close itself. What Kim had just sacrificed was a grand elixir that he earned by defeating that Queen's Moss Ant. So that's what was in the chest. Even while reduced in potency, it is still enough to save Young from certain death. Kim wouldn't let him die from something like this when he has a family to go back to. And while this may feel like an absolute waste right now, it probably solidified Young's faith that he's a good person more than killing the corrupted woman did. For all his efforts in helping out this boy, he finally gets what he deserves. A big sobbing hug. The system announces its closure of the third stage. The killing of this demon lick has granted Kim an additional reward of some type. So it seems that all they had to do was fend off the beast and they would have won. Clever move on the system's part. From the subjugation alone, he had earned 40,000 achievement points and a piece of war gear, along with 2 points in each stat. The item is called the Shackles of Sahar, but before Kim has a chance to examine it, they are taken to the next location of the tutorial by another one of those white doors. Straight to the meat and potatoes, the two men are put in another one of those strange safe rooms. It seems the white door from before, the instant pass door, led to this room as well. While only minutes had passed for Mr. Park over there, 10 days had passed for Kim and Young, who had gone through the red door to get stronger. And it seems like all the doors deposit here, as no sooner than a few minutes later do the rest of them appear along the walls and open to reveal people coming out. Some in pairs, others by themselves. There's one blood-soaked couple though. Who else but Meathead and his despised little girlfriend, happy as can be. Before Kim can assume anything, the system alerts them of the new conditions. 56 survivors remain for this fourth stage of the gruesome tutorial, and the next competition would be team-based instead of solo. Everyone in this room was on one team, while the other consisted of another group of players. Winners proceed to the final stage, losers do not. The rules are simple. The white door will earn you team points. The black door will earn you individual points, of which the top 10 will proceed to the final stage anyway. While the choice should be obvious, Kim and Young still head for the white door while Park calls them idiots. He's left to wonder who the real idiot is when the outside monsters are far stronger than before. Easily getting saved, Kim remarks that these things are weak in comparison to what they had already faced, and may be too much for people who went through the white door in stage 3. Park almost got skewered. Now he's getting roasted? Ouch. And hey, we know what his shackles do now. On consumption of magic, they boost attack, defense, and ignore armor, all with a 20% reduction in magic usage. Once the first day of the fourth stage is ended, everyone gathers back in the room together while the system announces the daily point gatherings of all participants. Just as before, Kim is sitting on top of the scoreboard for individual points, but on completion of the next calculations, it seems only him and Young earned any team points at all. The opposing team had earned 28,550 points, seems like they had no shot of catching up. Coins are also awarded for the day, and in his diary they are listed as being able to purchase extremely bizarre powerful items from the store when the stage is over. And yet, Kim still stands before everyone to make a suggestion that they should all work together to earn team points to get everybody through. And who else should oppose him on the thought but Meathead, who refuses to take part? If that's the hill you want to die on, man. Bluntly saying he doesn't have to, Meathead wonders why Kim would even consider the team points when they can survive in the top 10 anyway. That's a good question, and there's a fairly easy answer for it. If the final tutorial is also a team competition, what then? And their goal here is as simple as it gets. Everyone just has a quota to fill by the end of the day, and they can all go and get individual points afterward to catch up in ability. Sounds pretty straightforward, and it is. With everyone's agreement, Meathead shouts that he has no proof that they would all need to fight together. Seems this man lacks the brain for tactics. What a surprise. Now gathering up team points in the white door, Young jokes that his friend is a devotee of justice. Kim quietly rejects this, informing him of the harsh truth. If their team goes out into the final round, the other team will die. Kim isn't so much playing a saint as saving who he can from the pearly gates. With this knowledge, the two head into the black door to accumulate some stats. Testing his new toy, the shackles, Kim is charged by a monster in the area and abruptly slices the giant ogre's legs off with a single foul sweep of his sharp blade. The bracelet is a really powerful tool apparently. Young begins to wonder who the real monster is when it sets in that they're a bit too deep in the forest and should start going back. Kim reminds him about one of their earlier teachings: high risk, high reward. Though Young strikes a bit of a nerve when he asks if Kim has a goal in sight. Of course the protagonist does, dummy. But for his goal, Kim can't just survive like everyone else. He has to push forward and remain on top until the very end. He says they've rested enough and should probably get going back to the group area, but it seems like fate has other plans for our precious man. Sitting ahead of them on a rock, so kindly pointed out by Young, is a golden goblin carrying a loot sack of some kind. According to his diary, that goblin is no normal creature. It is referred to as the missing link, and they had to catch it at any cost. In another part of the forest though, a group of people are idly sitting around after gathering their points for the day, talking about how this is a pain in the behind. And although they are probably right about it being annoying to gather team points when you could assure yourself a place regardless, if they win the team battle, it'd be a great victory, but that's unlikely to happen. Meathead agrees, as does his little sidekick girl. Ugh, these two. They apparently came to make a deal with the men who just want to live, and it's not a bad deal for all the tired men and women present who just want to get into the top 10 and go home. The Kim and Young keep running endlessly through the forest, trying to catch up with this golden goblin. The smart little creep is pulling aggro on all the monsters in the area while running, getting further and further with each leap while the two run out of stamina. They finally run out, but have to catch that one no matter how long it takes. But for the moment, with both exhausted from a long and arduous day's work, they're forced to head home empty-handed. Apparently that little cretin is the cornerstone of the 4th tutorial, and has to be caught, no matter the cost. And we know just the guy to do it. With the 4th day of this nightmare concluding, the system quickly gets to work on calculations of both the scoreboards, and immediately Kim notices there are 6 less people in the room than when they had all started. That means there are 50 people left in total. Kim is also angered by the fact that Meathead and his new little group didn't get any team points that day, despite the clearer quota, and approaches them about it. They never agreed to the quota, and apparently they would survive anyway in the top 10, so what was the point? But when it's pointed out that they'd have to sacrifice one of their own for that, since Kim and Jung were leading, Meathead has had enough. He spits at Kim and says this is too much saint for just one man. He'll get himself killed like that. And in true protagonist fashion, Kim stares him dead in the eyes and replies, "Go ahead and try it." Finally, some spice. Wait, no, they're backing down. Fluff it. Kim very, and I mean very begrudgingly accepts the excuse from one of the men that they will fill out their quotas by the last day, just barely avoiding a sword fight between Kim and Meathead. In private, Meathead asks him what he's doing, and reminds the man that they have to kill Kim if they want any chance at survival. Of course he knows this, but the fight back then wouldn't have been a 9 against 2. Kim and Young have everyone else's support because they're trying to save the whole group. Smart man. Kim knows how to use his head too, and to defeat a smart cookie like our man, they have to be smart cookies and take this one step at a time. Sorry if you're hungry now. But there's no reason for them to be in any kind of rush. My dude, you only have 4 days left, and you've become a problem standing between the protagonist and his family. Say your prayers while you still can, because Big Brother Kim has a plan. And that plan involves a lot of running and cardio as they're aiming to catch that missing link at any and all cost. Hatching a quick plan as it jumps from branch to branch high above them in the canopy, Kim quickly cuts the branch ahead of it so the cursed little creature loses its footing and plummets toward a waiting sword. The thing screams as it falls and throws dirt at him in desperation, clouding Kim's eyes enough that he can't see. It manages to get away, taunting him by looking back as an ogre appears out of seemingly thin air to keep them busy. The missing link smugly sits behind it, expecting to be safe behind the blue mass of hulking flesh. And on any other day, against any other person, it'd be completely right. But Kim is at the top of the scoreboard for a reason. Gathering up all his magical strength to attack the little menace, Kim pours everything he has into the shackles of Zahar. The bracelet glows brightly and gives him the power to cut straight on through an entire tree, the ogre behind it, and pierce the golden goblin in its heart. The creatures both die immediately, and the link leaves behind its sack of treasures. Rootin' tootin', ready for lootin'. Meanwhile, at the forest edge, a group of people are headed in to hunt, talking about Kim and the top-ranked guys who hunt way further into the forest. But as they walk in with a bit more confidence than before, one poor woman gets nailed in the shoulder by a thrown sword. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Can you taste sarcasm? And right on cue, they're surrounded by Meathead and his gang members, killing people because they want their coins and points. But before they can hurt anyone else, the heroes of our little story arrive to end this unholy crusade and bring in their own. Finally, the showdown we've all been waiting for. But first, flashback time! Killing the missing link rewarded them with its loot bag, better than surprise mechanics, and Kim rifles through everything there, looking for a specific item that has a chance to be present. Quickly finding what he's looking for is a relief, the Tear of a Goddess, increasing magic regeneration and effects by 20% each. Young looks through all this stuff for some gear of his own in the meantime, leaving Kim to head a little distance away to drink the tear. After his magic is recovered and the benefits are clear, Young calls him back to look at what they'd uncovered. Cleaving a tree in half with ease, Young's new energy sword skill is a beast in raw power, and it's a passive bonus too. Catching that golden goblin was worth it, even for all the trouble it caused them. Kim also has a shiny new sword out of this, one named Killer Edge. With that name and his new dark and broody clothing, I officially dubbed the main character as a goth boy. Yeah, that as you will. No regrets. But you know who will regret something? Meathead and company. Because Kim has come to save the attacked group and dispose of those traitorous fleas. As the group runs for their lives, Meathead is moving to stop them but is intercepted by our hero. The two stare each other down while behind him. All members escape without more harm. Meathead taunts his fresh opponent, and in reply, Kim slices one of his little gang members without moving an inch nor turning around. Ooh, my boy, you are royally fluffed. Yelling to the remainder of his goons to take care of this guy already, the rest of them back up into the scariest monster we've seen yet in this series. After Meathead calls for his mates to kill Kim, everybody had backed up, leaving the second-rank player all alone versus his superior power. Kim stands there menacingly until Meathead curses the lot of them out, and charges at Kim without thinking his strike through. Their swords meet with a ferocious clang, and both stand idly while fighting for dominance. But our clever man has something up his sleeve. Don't forget about those shackles. With just a bit of magic poured into them, the difference in strength becomes nothing more than a troublesome delay to the inevitable defeat. I wonder how Meathead thought this was gonna end. Like, did he really think the person in first place was gonna be there, some kind of nasty fluke? Kim easily pushes back against his bigger but now weaker opponent, forcing them back with a powerful slash that leaves him open to the rest of the group. Or so they seem to think by the bold move of running towards him from every direction. Cutting down one of them without moving from his place, Young intercepts the other, the woman Kim had rejected at the start, and as their swords clash, he makes the classic quote, "Forgot about me?" Meathead is unhappy, very, very unhappy, because in his mind, something absurd as him losing a fight never occurred. Yeah, welcome to the harsh reality, pal. Charging Kim in the moonlight with little if any self-preservation left, it only takes one solid kick to the stomach to put him back in the dirty soil below. Having had enough of his shenanigans, and for the transgression of such a stupid attack, Meathead loses his arm as payment for wasting Kim's time. And like the saint he is, Kim asks if the vile man has any final word to the people he had slain. Kim is told to fluff off, and that relieves any guilt he may have had over killing this brutal man. A bit sad to say, he's now just meat because the head is rolling away. But from that kill alone, Kim earns a metric ton of XP and achievement points, more than enough to survive all on his own for the rest of the tutorial. Meanwhile, Young is closing in on the traitor girl who sold Kim out, and she's practically begging for her life, asking not to be killed. He made her do it! He made her do it all! Though that fails to excuse her killing all those people in the first place, as she still actively chose to do it with the smile. As his sword is pulled from her gut and the woman falls lifeless to the cold floor, Kim mutters that also makes him guilty of the same thing. He then turns and yells for Young to get his stuff together, because if she'd caught him off guard like that, it would have been the last mistake of his life. Kim saved him once by single use of a very expensive and irreplaceable item. There's no way in heck he can sacrifice that kind of thing again. And nobody wants to end up like the dead lady, even less like the poor guy they had let escape. Kim quickly goes after him, and after one-hitting the ogre the escapee had attracted, in a gory fashion as per usual, the two men decide to head back for the night after collecting the bloodied coins of the fallen enemies. It's not a pretty picture, nor something either of them really like doing, but it's necessary for survival if they want to get past the final tutorial stage. After explaining what had happened to the other survivors, everyone is finding it a hard pill to swallow that the others of the top ranks were so easily iced by the first place. But hey, at least they have nothing standing in their way now. All that's left is to fix that nasty 20,000 point gap between the two teams. That plan is nothing more than hunting all damn day to get as many team points as possible. Darn it, Tatum, you had us all excited for something. Cleaving snakes and other monsters clean in half is nothing more than a party trick by this point. For now, they should get moving, even though they've been at this for no less than 10 hours straight already. What the fluff kind of monster are you, a drill sergeant? Apparently so, and if Young isn't tired at all, then they should really get a move on right about now, because they wouldn't want to lose this scenario by even a few points. Eventually resting outside with long-labored breaths of relief, Kim and Young have done well to close the huge point difference between them and the enemy team. They can only hope that the extra points they spent days gathering would be enough to close the monster of a gap. Some are optimistic about their chances, others pessimistic. But to Kim has done everything he can to get everybody through this and into the final round. Now it was all up to fate if they would live or die. Their team points begin to get calculated as the system closes the final day of this hellish nightmare. 219,200 points. Their blood, sweat, and grime had all come to this heart-wrench of a moment they found themselves in. Would it be enough? Would they all move safely forward? Yes. Yes, they would. Because the enemy team is short by about 1,650 points. Kim and his whole group have successfully passed the fourth stage of this dream gone wrong and get to move on safely. Cheers and cries of joy echo all around the hallway as people scream and jump in happiness, getting all giddy about the fact there's only one more place left to go. However, they all seem to mistake one little detail on the system's words. It said they would all survive. It did not say they would all be moving on as a group. Seems even in his death, Meathead had good intuition. But for the moment, Kim is whisked away to a new room where he is rewarded for all his hard work defeating the most monsters. All attributes would rise by 4, a net total increase of 24. And now for a duration of 1 hour, he gets to spend his hard-earned coins at the system shop. There's nothing that can raise his stats, except Zahar's Magic Circle, a passive skill that amplifies all magic, making this one of the easiest choices he's ever had to make. Keen-eyed viewers may also have spotted the name, Zahar, just like that of his shackles. And without another word, Kim is whisked away to the 5th and final stage of this world, the S-Rank tutorial. Under a dark and clouded sky, Kim is put on the walls of a castle out of nowhere, slowly coming back to reality from walking through the door and into his final stage. A soldier of some medieval kind touches his shoulder, asking who he is. Kim has no clue what the heck he's just been thrown into, and very quickly realizes he's in the middle of a battlefield. Men with bows stand ready, some running supplies. The soldier puts aside his worry for now and just asks him to help them out. The tutorial system quickly fixes his glaring lack of knowledge with a little push on what to do: defend the castle from the accursed dead. Kim finally looks over the ramparts at the army of skeletons slowly approaching. They make their bony way toward the castle gates, staring back up at him with silent screeches that never come from the gaping open mouths. It's taking 7 soldiers just to barely keep them out of the gate. People scrambling and bows drawn at the opposition. Yeah, like that'll work. But even with all their strength, the men are still being pushed back. Until they aren't. Kim stabs the one making its way through, and effortlessly slips through the crack in the open gate, cutting down the approaching army without a second regard. Swing after swing, the minions of death fall to his blade. From a roundhouse crosscut to clear a path, to said path being carved out of the smoking ash of these despicable things. He does get touched by one of the bony boys, and it leaves a hellish black mark across the leather pauldron running across his shoulder. So there are toxins or something behind this. Not all fun and games. Holding off the creeps until sunlight was an easy task though. As the mighty ball of flame rose millions of kilometers away, the creatures begin to disintegrate into mounds of ash, being swept away by the wind to be returned to their afterlife. After he's thanked by the garrison commander, Max, with a hearty handshake and a mild introduction, Kim realizes this must be a person who lives here. Oh yeah, this is big brain time. When asked for his name, the man states Kim has a rather odd one. but nonetheless his help is asked for in taking care of these undead. And later, while inside their little castle, Max and Kim talk in a bit more detail about these attacks, and we learn that they have already been under siege for days on end. None will stay down forever, and they've been struggling to stay afloat. So that night, Kim goes out on his own in the pouring rain and finds the source of the problem deep in the woods. Walking through the forest the next morning with a small battalion in tow, Kim takes his new friends to the source of the issue. While they didn't have to follow him at all and will probably die horribly protecting their castle, the fate of all NPCs, they're still human and show emotion, so it would have been very hard to refuse them. Though Kim won't be able to protect these guys in a fight, so they had better hold their own. This S-rank tutorial is quite something in comparison to the old life of Kim's. And to be honest, it's kinda scary how fast he's adapted. It's also Manhwa too, so I guess he gets a free pass for this one. Oh, and of course it's creepy cultists in robes. It's always creepy cultists in robes. Bonus points here for trying to summon a demon, though the magical force field is a pretty decent touch. If Kim had just left well enough alone last night, they wouldn't have bothered with him. Yet here he is, the strong man himself, running towards his death with flashing neon letters. No matter, the undead would take care of him once the sun had set. Oh, is that so, you creepy robed? Right, language. Either way, the protagonist has been poked one too many times and raises his sword against the shield, making a decently large crack in it for those inside to be concerned. This is not just any ordinary human, you blithering idiots. They must hurry, for they require the strength of their master. Like some big scary demon is going to scare that human. Though this is a horror manhwa, so we'll see. Pouring magic into his bracelet, the barrier is cracked in half with a single swing, and the men charge for the cultists within who have given them so much grief. However, it seems like in perfect timing, these cultists have made it to their goal first. The demon discards his final minion after the men have been consumed by its completion, and with Kim intent on fighting this beast, he's quickly put in an unsolvable situation. Without being able to dodge, Kim has no choice but to block the colossal swing. With a fist the size of a tree trunk, he has a tough time holding it back with the damaged sword he looted from Meathead's corpse. Even so, he holds back the ham fist enough to surprise the demon it's attached to, at least until the blade starts to crack and shatters outright from the immense pressure it was put under. Having been melted away from facing the corrosive undead the night prior, it's amazing it had even lasted this long. But with those pesky mages dead or close to it already, it lived out its purpose, ripped and tore until it was done. Grabbing his killer edge from its sheath, Kim has zero time to react when the demon appears behind him out of thin air, barely blocking its swing. He's sent tumbling back into the dirt and grime while the demon makes threats it plans to carry out on, such as rending his soul from the body and leaving it to float around like a lonely little ghost. But now, he's in no position to use any of his skills. Kim jumps toward the threat and just barely dodges a claw swipe from Big Ugly, which leaves him grounded and able to slice a leg clean off this big purple idiot. Not getting comfortable in his position and learning from the past mistake, it don't take long before he's aiming for the creature's neck high above. Kim first skids to a stop on the floor below, and once sufficient magic has been poured into the great killer edge, that name will never get old, I swear. A leap into the air leaves him positioned right in front of the demon's face. Taking his chance, Kim aims for the weak point and cleaves at it. 1. The demon notices magic no longer flows through him. 2. It raises its ugly fist to strike him down from the heavens, ironically. 3. Its head and arm are taken clean off as the ring of magic storage is used, a once-off that powers the final blow of his bracelet. The head and body falls lifeless to the floor far below as the now tired protagonist is taken with it. The guards have rushed over with Max commending him on actually killing the darn thing. A demon of this caliber is no easy feat, and it really shows off his strength. Kim thanks him but adds they probably hadn't summoned the thing right, weakening it, and being in the sunlight seemed to drain its strength as well. The demon's detached head scoffs at this. I don't know what you were expecting, it's a demon. It laughs and says broadly that they are all puppets. This isn't the last time Kim would be in its presence. Yeah, keep talking, pal. Slaying the head, the tutorial is passed instantly. Max seems disturbed by the giant being, as you do, but not for the reason Kim once thought. This monster is the personification of death itself, and it was just peeved off by our man. But before his thoughts can gather, Kim decides to head out. He politely declines Max's offer to stick around, but will take him up on it should they ever cross paths again. Not likely, and soon he finds himself in front of a giant stone door, pushing it open with thoughts of seeing his beloved family once more. He steps through, and into, is that heaven? No, it can't be. Exploring the open palace, Kim quickly runs into a nondescript Bible figure. YouTube, please, I need to eat. The figure seems to recognize the hard shackle on his wrist, something they thought had been lost entirely a long time ago. Its owner is unnamed, but it's obvious by now, and it's not just the shackle on his wrist, it's the magic through Kim's veins too, the magic circuit. This man, Aryan, apparently knows the Monarch Zahar and serves under them in some position. Though before he will go further, Kim is prompted on how he even managed to get to this place. Good question, bro. Kim was just wailing through a very foggy place when he saw the temple. That is all he can remember. Aryan suddenly looks up in surprise like he's listening to somebody talk and speaks back at them. Think we have a guess at who's knocking, and it ain't the delivery guy. Aryan then asks if Kim is prepared to receive grand strength, something that he may or may not survive the implantation of. Even then, he may not receive the power at all. But if he does receive it, there would be responsibilities that would come with it. Would he still accept this gift knowing all of this? An easy answer: yes. Even if not fully aware of his situation, read them T's and C's, my man. He needs the strength in order to revive his wife and daughter. A selfish goal, but Aryan allows it, touching Kim on the chest with his giant finger. Thankfully not the middle one. Suddenly, an intense burst of pain overcomes him. This is no normal pain, but excruciating torture to the highest order of magnitude possible by human senses. But if Kim truly wants to earn this power, then this is what he has to endure for his dream to come true. He rides for hours and screams bloody murder. Aryan remarks that he's persistent for a human, but even upon his deathbed when he wants to pass over already from the agony, Kim still somehow makes it through and hears a mysterious voice alongside him. While trying to remember it, the hero gently closes his eyes and opens them briefly to see Mina and Eungyung above him. He can't just stop here after the tutorial. And with that, he actually wakes up. Dreamtime, huh? The saintly Aryan is still present, sitting there waiting patiently for Kim to grip his senses. And Kim is finally told what was put inside of his body: the Monarch Zahar's heart. So you did surgery without opening someone up? No wonder it freaking hurt. Once this has all been said and done, Kim passes the tutorial completely and is sent into the actual world he's meant for, and to the starting village of Melin. Awaiting him there is the ever-hopeful Young, a bunch of survivors he doesn't know, and, of course, a hard-but military guy who commands silence. His name? Alvin Walker. Realizing that it's not just the people they had come with who were trapped, our protagonist wonders how long this world has been stealing people from theirs for this little twisted game of theirs. And how had nobody from the Earth noticed all these missing people stripped away from their world? And a pretty good question from a man up front. Did they make this not-so-invisible wall he's banging on? Alvin retorts that no, he didn't make it, but the woman next to him named Lois did. The crowd trapped within the barrier begins to yell to be let out, asking who they are and why they were brought here. They all too quickly drop Alvin's patients into the gutter, leaving him no choice but to yell over each and every one of them again for silence. Or what? You'll kill them? Oh. Okay, fair enough, bro. Lois puts him back in his place with a yell, and he begins to inform them that this wall isn't there to keep them all trapped inside, but rather to keep what may attack them out. In comparison to the place they were currently standing in, that big scary tutorial they had just undergone, that was nothing more than a practical joke. A very unfunny one if you ask me. Oh, you didn't ask? Too bad. Just be glad I don't start with dad puns. Anyhow, for the moment they're all being escorted to the starting village of Melin. They should be pretty familiar with the forest by now, but the problem starts right about the edge of those mountains in the distance. But that's if you can even get that far, since the stronger monsters like to inhabit this area. Beyond those mountains are the most dangerous things in this entire world: an angel and a demon. Someone stupidly asks if they are dangerous. Duh, didn't you just hear him? And the reply is yes, more so than any monsters you could imagine. But they don't need to know all of this right now. They only need to continue on toward Melin. As of their arrival in the starting city, which is huge, Alvin tells that their basic housing and meals will be given out for free, but only for the first 10 days of their stay. After that, it's up to them to make this place their home, and they shouldn't forget that the Tower Clan is doing this to protect them as weaklings. No need to lord it over them. Now moving into Kim's house with Young and him on their beds, the two talk briefly about their situation before Young goes to wash up while Kim reads a bit more of his diary. The pages he couldn't get to now turn freely, and he's surprised at events to come. Though that night, the both of them get shocked by a knock at the door. Someone looking for Mr. Kim Dae-rim. Apparently, they are there to recruit him. Kim allows the guy inside a bit begrudgingly. The man notes that Kim wasn't alone, red flag number 1, and introduces himself as Won Din of the Brahm clan, which currently resides in Melin. Kim does a polite introduction, not that he needs it since this guy seems so well informed already, of his name and his friend Young. Then he asks bluntly how Mr. Din managed to find him in the city to recruit him. Din answers that rumors of the star player in the tutorial were already circulating around the city, and it is also the job of clans to seek out promising recruits. Well, yes, that would be how they keep their numbers up. But along comes red flag number 2. The clan leader is apparently waiting for Kim outside to speak with him about the recruitment. Of course, our hero is too smart for this, as would anyone from the modern world be, I feel. If you fall for this stuff, you have no IQ. And the nail in the proverbial coffin, red flag number 3. Why is their clan leader of all people waiting outside for Mr. Daedim in the dead of night? Why not schedule a meeting with him during the day when everyone is awake? Unless there's a special reason they have to do it now? Having been outplayed, Din drops the pretense and shows his true attitude towards the newcomers. Kim had gotten a vague idea from his journal, probably more than that but clever phrasing, about what the Braum clan really is. A horde of murderers who kill newbies to take all their items and other valuables. A pity that trashes like this still lies around the corner of every city. While Din doesn't understand how he's figured it out already, that makes this a pretty straightforward meeting. He gets all their items in exchange for letting them live. Kim is unhappy with this, but I can't quote him because, well, YouTube. Din shortly disappears from view and pops out behind them, Kim just barely blocking the blade to his neck. But by the time our man is ready to attack, Din is gone. He tries his luck with Young next, but lo and behold, same result of getting parried. Din dodges the wide-angle slash attacks from Kim, making it out alive by the skin of his teeth. Though a giant claw mark from the sword blade is now left on the wooden wall, leaving the assassin wondering what the heck kind of magic that was. Din then tries his sneaky tactics of melding with the shadows, but as per the usual, it's seen straight through as he closes in on the protagonist. Din tries to escape the room, but, well, yeah, that happens. The next morning, in comes the Tower clan to see what the commotion is all about in their own territory, led by Alvin. Din Alondro, a man notorious for being with the Braum clan for 2 years, and for killing newcomers. Alvin never expected something like this to happen, and as a criminal, this guy had acquired a 30 gold bounty over time, meaning the two had gotten quite the bargain in catching a notorious thief. Young says that he had a feeling something bad was bound to happen when that guy showed up, but he had no idea it would turn out that way. Did Kim know about this beforehand? Well, since they have bounties for murder clans, he'd just taken a wild guess. Sure, brother. Let's just roll with that for the time being. Alvin then makes an unexpected offer. Do these two want to join the Tower clan? His associate is surprised at this and almost appalled he'd even ask, but Alvin has a silent reason. He'd never seen someone before who could take down a person at Din Alondro's level. Kim is a diamond in the rough, a chance he can't let slip through his fingers without trying. And for a newcomer, joining a clan has its huge advantages. There's no way that he should even be thinking twice about it. And yet the two were sent back with a rejection. Kim has no plans to join a clan, despite the obvious benefits, and Alvin correctly assumes that this is because Kim has some kind of grand plan backing up his words. I mean, come on. Knowing him as we do, there has to be something in that darn book. Young also ends up rejecting, mostly to stay with his buddy, but Alvin understands that there's no way he's going to persuade them otherwise. So for the moment, he accepts his defeat and politely concedes. The bounty reward would be sent to them later today, though he advises to use some of it to fix that wall behind them. Young and the man himself check out the reward they got in the form of gold in their pouch. 30 pieces, each worth about 1 million won or 800 USD. Quick math here, and that's $24,000 in the palm of their hand. But although Young is mighty impressed at the sheer amount, Kim still is asked why he'd rejected the Tower clan's offer to join. Of course, it's because he has a better idea and a goal to reach, though Young still doesn't know about the key advantage in this story so far, his friend's diary. Bet he keeps that secret real close to his heart, huh? What we do know about his ideals thus far are that they include meeting a Grand Mage, which is the place they're headed to right now. The old mage at the portal sees them approaching and says it's 50 gold, otherwise get out of his sight. Kim has a different kind of request, but Abraham ain't having it. That tune rapidly changes, however, when Kim mentions the lab he's been looking for. Now Mr. Lincoln wants to know everything and who the heck he is to know about this stuff. All topics Kim just brushes off in favor of civility, though Abraham still manages to recognize his gauntlet from somewhere. Recatching the old guy's attention, he says that if they find the laboratory for him, they will receive a suitable reward. But the one thing he must remind them of, if you take anything from my lab, I'll make sure you're begging for death. Later, while the two are chatting away and walking around the Rocky Mountains nearby the town, the boys get on the topic of this being better than joining the Tower clan. Kim has a hunch that it is better for the moment to be working independent, but isn't sure on his guess. There's also the mystery of what the hidden lab was used for. Some claim that the governor used people as magic catalysts, killing them in the name of furthering the science of his craft. This manhwa is listed as part horror, so that's to be expected, I suppose. But this calm before the storm doesn't last for very long, as after Young is done throwing a scaredy cat moment at our audience, is there a doctor in this house? Kim looks up and spots what he's after immediately. There, residing high above on the rock face, is a small entrance hole to the laboratory they are seeking. What do you want to bet it's filled to the brim with zombies? When the first dungeon was found around Melin, huge changes were afoot, or so the diary had said. What was important was not the dungeon itself, but rather the reward one gained from it. The culmination of all the Master Mage's hard work throughout his lifetime. It'd be rather difficult to own this item under jurisdiction of a clan, but that makes it all the more worth it to obtain. Young asked a good question, ones he seems to be full of right now. Why Abraham would forget such a nearby place? Short version, it's because he's a Grand Mage. Or possibly because of the state governor? We'll see. Stepping through the stone hallways, their consensus is that he might have lost his memories to a spell and instead got stuck operating the portal. Though if he'd wanted to find it, why not ask someone else to look for him? Because, you lovable idiot, there's no guarantee they would come back and tell him. One might just want the rewards for themselves. Oh. Big Bro Kim has spotted something, hold up. Before them are trails of corpses, rotting flesh and ragged bone, some covered in clothing of the modern era. Adventurers who were brought here for experiments. And they all start moving. Of course they start moving. No dungeon can be without its grindy mobs. The waves of undead relentlessly charge them, furiously attempting to bring the disturbers of their rest to the soil and rocky earth below. While Kim is defending himself out of the battle heat, leaps a starved zombie which catches him off guard. Solidify just as quickly breaks its hold, and a single slice later with the shackle's power, the entire standing wave before him is crushed with the perpetrator being the first in line. From their corpses, the men now loot the little crystals that powered the beasts. Fragments of magic power that allow the chimeras, not zombies you guys, chimeras, to move around at their own leisure. By now they had been in this cave for a full week, spending all that time gunning it with no end in sight. Or should I say sorting it? No? Oh, okay, I'll just escort myself out. But finally, they do reach the end of the line. Abraham's lab is behind a giant white door of granite and marble stone, locked by magic chains of unknown origin. One which Young takes a blade to, slicing through it like a hot knife on butter. With the sound and clack and fall of the old iron constraints, the boys and I move forward as the camera not so creepily follows them into the room to talk about their life's extended warranty. Within the chamber, a man floats, silent and quite clearly dead, within a glass body tank of clear watery liquid. Guess we'll have to sign him up too. I'll have Jerry ready the paperwork. While he's doing so, we flippity-flop back to Melin's Tower Guild's headquarters where Captain Alvin Walker is reading a report on their failure to find the dungeon. Got some news for you, pal. For 2 months they have been unable to locate this stupid dungeon, and the man is getting sick of these reports that mention nothing of progress. Ordering his subordinates to get out of there and actually do something about this, Alvin stops him at the doorway to ask one thing. Any news on the men who had caught Din a few weeks prior? None? None at all? Okay, then get out of my sight and back to work. Meanwhile, the boys and I explore the dungeon they were just talking about and look around Abraham's lab. Kim looks for something specific and finds a shiny metal handle jutting out of a big wooden bookcase. Grabbing it and pulling brings fruit to the labor in form of a small hidden storage area, some kind of potions present and accounted for. These are supposedly the fruits of the old man's labor over his entire lifetime, the final product of all his research. But there's nothing listed about the purple-filled flask within his diary. Oh well, this is mine now, there are none like it, and this one is mine. Headed back to Melin with their spoils of war, the two approach Abraham and inform him that they have located his lab. But before they divulge information of any sort, Young wants to know what he's working on down there. But the old man actually asked them what was in the place. His memories are definitely gone alright. Kim relents and tells him where to find the entrance. Shouldn't be hard to get for a happy old cottager like this. They get the rewards, very good ones, and the old man teleports away, leaving Kim victorious with the reason he's looking for the lab in his hand. Those potions he had, borrowed. He could have the glassware back, just not its contents. For the moment, Kim and Young decide to use their new wealth to get some better accommodations. They should tell the Tower Clan about the dungeon soon as well, so they can reap double the rewards. Smart man. But before that, they would take some time to catch their breath and or not, because Kim still has something they need to do in this situation. Those potions he snatched ain't gonna drink themselves. His companion does question what these are and if they're even safe to drink, but the two of them gulp the bottles anyway. And not a moment after do they convulse in pain from the effects, screaming out into the day for all to hear. These potions are supposed to take your body to the next level above human, and they do, at the cost of, well, you have eyes. Still though, in comparison to what he'd gone through to get the magic circuit, this agony was absolutely nothing. So even while he shakes from the damage being done internally while his body rebuilds itself, Kim must survive through this in order to be the strongest person he can for the other side. Only by nightfall does the pain recede, when the two are huffing and puffing for dear life. Perhaps it wasn't such a wise choice to drink both at once, yeah my man? Maybe consider that next time you're holding a mysterious potion. The both of them are now fine and better than ever after drinking their fill. Their stats, stamina, and even their bloody magic, the most stingy element within this whole world, have all gone up in tandem. But if Abraham was a genius enough man to make pots of this caliber, then why wasn't he smart enough to drink them himself? The two men rest for the night, and Kim notices he can flip the pages in his diary, but what he sees causes him to grab his sword, runs screaming out the door for Young to follow him, and head for the Tower Clan's headquarters in the middle of the darn night. Careful not to wake Captain Cranky from his beauty sleep. But even banging on their door doesn't do much at this hour. Not at first anyhow. Soon as he yells that this matter is urgent, Alvin's friend opens the door to see what's going on. Kim demands to see him, and no sooner than mentioning Abraham's dungeon does the man's face drop with surprise, and his boss came crawling out of the woodwork. They were noisy enough to drag him down, I guess. While Alvin is ecstatic at the news that the first dungeon around Malin had been found, Kim rather abruptly interrupts him with the news that the old man was going to invade Malin the next day with a new body. Lo and behold, who should join their little group but the madman himself in said new body. Abraham stands before them as that guy they saw floating in the tank. They should have destroyed it, but look out! Kim dodges as a stone spike impales itself where his torso was. Alvin immediately asking who the heck he is. Shouldn't it be obvious by now, bro? But what he wants isn't the potions, no. He wants those shackles of Zahar all to himself. But when he attacks to get them, a net of sword slashes destroys the stalactites coming their way. Alvin stands there with a short monologue about how he thought the Grand Mage had gone off and died in a ditch somewhere. But no, he'd managed to undo his curse and gain a brand spanking new look? How? Instead of giving him an answer, the mage just stares amusedly at the guard captain. Alvin turns to Kim with intent of saying something, but the man has already rushed his adversary with intense speed. The mage sparks some lightning off his hand, all of which got absorbed into the ring Abraham himself had rewarded Kim with for finding his dungeon. Kim manages to cut the scary guy before him across the cheek. A small victory, but one nonetheless. This man is not invulnerable, much as he'd like to think. And now, for the second act of magic from the Tower Clan, the strong associate of Mr. Alvin appears behind Abraham and does a bit of smashy. Wait. No. You know what? I'm rolling with it. I don't care anymore. Obviously, he fails to crater the mage's face, the man hovering high above without much effort. In a perfect position to get captured, I see. Within seconds, a makeshift magic barrier is put around him from Lewis, the magician of their guild. She's just as confused at the prospect of who this is, almost dropping her spell from lack of concentration. But by now, the entire clan has emptied into the streets from that small building to surround him floating in the air. And while the majority of these whelps are nothing for someone of his caliber, the two most dangerous ones are Lewis and Alvin by far. Kim could be taken care of later, I guess? The guy who wounded you? Deciding it's best not to tempt fate and get his beautiful face scratched by any more mishaps, Abraham thinks it's best to vacate the premises of the city to retreat back to his laboratory. He does so with a nifty bit of teleportation, dissolving midair and oh no, what's this? The paper's dissolving too? After the mage had escaped, Kim has a nice sit down with Alvin Walker and Lewis of the Tower Clan to explain what's going on. The potions they drank were apparently crafted by using hundreds, if not thousands of souls as a catalyst for the raw magic. Why am I hearing the laugh of an evil flower? Oh well, that'll sort itself out. But with all that extra strength, it would be obvious what Abraham was going to try, invading Malin due to his disdain of the populace. Of all people, really. But one thing don't make sense. The old man was cursed for the longest time, sworn to protect the portal in this village. How did he escape such a thing to get to his lab? I don't know, plot? Alvin puts two and two together but also raises his voice that asking for help after knowingly drinking those potions was nothing short of shameless, is what he'd normally say. But given the circumstances, they don't really have a choice but to aid him anyway. They're about to shake hands with the commander to express his thanks, but at the last second, he pulls back to ask one more rather important question. How did Kim know all of this in the first place? Oh shoot, guess he forgot to explain that part. Saved by the best timing of all, someone from their clan almost kicks down the door to let his boss know that they're here. An army of monsters has come to invade Malin. The newbies scream and scram away from the wall as fast as they can, some making it while others trip up over their own feet and fall prey. As the Chimera launches itself at one such man on the floor, its access is denied by the appearance of a giant blue barrier which its head bounces off of. Lewis has cast her voice and barriers all throughout the city. At her side, poor Young has left behind to defend her and the city while the big kids go forth to deal with the big bad bully who sent these goons. Dealing with whatever is in their way post-haste, Kim makes way for the charging elites who are headed straight for Abraham's lab and the core of this threat. Going to see the potion seller, are we? And for those who don't appreciate my jokes, you're free to read the manhwa yourself. Its full name is The Live, and I'm sure the comments will be happy to inform you of places to look it up. Thank you in advance. Back to the story, once Kim has realized how weak these things are, he turns around to see the biggest mob of them approaching from a distance. These guys number more than Black Friday shoppers, I swear. But before he could test out any of his new strength of the stored magic in his blade, Alvin drags his hand across the battlefield and wipes the floor with the horde standing before them with one move. After cutting the fabric of reality, at least that's what it looked like, he urges that they pick up the pace to get this over and done with. Couldn't agree more, my man. Meanwhile, in the Mad Lad's lab, a very angry Abraham is standing over his table where a new potion of red descent is being created. But the process is taking too long. The souls aren't being brought together fast enough. The group near his lab and one of their leading members clears a path with magic. They lament on the fact of these chimeras' existence, picking up a few of the stones that power them. Alvin is absolutely raging inside because this means he'd been preparing the attack for a while. But it doesn't matter how long he's been getting all this ready for. If they can take him out, it would be well worth it. Having wasted enough time on gawking at the pretty glow of the rocks, the group delves deeper into the depths of the mountainside. Back in Meilin, Young is doing his job quite well and clawing his way through the ranks with that fancy energon sort of is, going through monster after monster and clearing each one with unyielding efficiency. One that tries to jump him is caught by Lewis, who crushes it within her barriers. She tells him to take a break, because he's already further than people who have been here for at least 2 years. But the man wants to catch up to Kim in ability and not be dead weight. Oh come on now bro, you're the most useful person to him and he knows it. Back in Ye Old Cave, however, Kim and Ko are being put through the ringer as Abraham has forced them all to their knees. His magic circle is sucking the souls out of them, forcing the people to concentrate or die. Thanks to their interference, he's only managed to drink 1 potion thus far, so he's nowhere near the proper strength he'd need for an invasion at this moment. But Alvin is just unimpressed that such a grand mage would need to rely on a magic circle like this to take out his opposition. When Abraham tries to kill Alvin for his so-called insolent words to the stature of the giant ego before him, his last thoughts are those of prayer that Kim could get them out of this. Because unbeknownst to Mr. Lincoln over there, until a blade is dragged widely across his back, Kim can still move and has a sword ready to go up the grand annoyance's butt. While he dodges the many stone spikes that come for him from the ceiling, we know that the attack was at least somewhat effective because of the fresh blood on the blade. It is unclear how he is able to walk under his own power, but by guess, it might be his gifts from Zahar finally showing their influence. Alvin had bought him time after seeing this, and that's what allowed him to get close enough to do any damage. Also, using that purple potion he had saved from the bookcase. While the cut was vast, it was also shallow. Abraham was now in the dilemma of how to deal with the rising situation. He can sense Kim coming, but he has to keep the circle going. As soon as he stops the magic, it'll be a 2v1 with Alvin joining the fray. But as Kim charges him and slices once more, the mage dissolves into black sand of some kind, appearing behind his opponent. Solidify is the only thing that stops her boy from getting turned into paste right then and there, though the blast still knocks him around a lot, enough to make Alvin concerned that they may not be able to win after all. But if they hadn't brought Kim with him, they would have stood zero chance, instead of the little something they have right now. Dodging bolt after bolt of miraculous lightning, the hero barely avoids getting shocked to death. All this running is getting very tiresome and he can't get close to Abraham without sacrificing himself at the moment. How in the blue blazes could such a mage use his magic and power the circle at the same time? While Kim has been caught up by magic chains that he cannot seem to break. It seems oddly familiar. And the mage does his little speech of, "Good job running around." Abraham suddenly falls to the floor as his soul starts to be taken out of his body. Kim has coated his blade in the potion of soul capturing, the same one Abraham used to switch bodies. Making the mage drink his own potion would have been an arduous task nigh impossible of accomplishment. So Kim went the clever route instead and poured it all out at great cost, the one he had stricken. Abraham now has not a choice. He must stop the magic circle before his soul disappears. But before that, he has his arm chopped off by the quite angry Kim, who spots his ruse. Tisk tisk. Teleportation ring for purpose of escape? I think not, foul heathen. He can now wait here and suffer whilst the fair lad brings his dear companions outside to await the verdict of justice. He won't be helping a murderer anytime soon. Now conscious of the sheer might his savior possesses, Alvin Walker has only humility and humbleness at the might of our hero. He would undoubtedly be dandy on his own accord within the dungeon, while they would lay in rest outside pending his immediate return. I would be more worried about the poor sap his eyes are ablaze for, asking the question of who the flying fluff had returned such memories of his laboratory to the mage. No answer is returned in good time. Just before his sword lands, however, out comes the truth. Abraham has not the faintest idea how it happened, nor who it was. Only that they were robed. And the second, perhaps more interesting question, how does he know about the shackle of Zahar? The mage laughs a dry, humorous chuckle. There's no way I wouldn't. The guy who turned me into this wore it. But before Kim would let him stop the magic circle, there's one question that needs answering. Why? Why did he kill them and cause all that pain? Abraham for a split second seems remorseful for his actions, but just as quickly breaks the facade with a howling laugh before his demise. He killed them because he needed test subjects, and after that, just because he'd started to enjoy killing. Did he need more of a reason? Oh, you sick son of a... That's it, cut him apart. Kim smashes his head into the rocky floor, thank you, and actually beheads the guy for his treacherous nature. That's what you get when you're a murderer. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, 2 robed entities are looking over the dungeon with giant annoyance. One nonchalantly mentions Abraham is dead, and the other is quite disappointed at the so-called Grand Mage, who got himself off like that. No, he was indeed a Grand Mage, but the humans who had foiled his plans were a bit stronger than anticipated. This was an unforeseen outcome for them. For now, the 2 had no choice but to retreat to their home without results. Upon returning from the investigation, Alvin receives the report that 20,000 people have been killed due to this incident, most of them newbies who couldn't defend themselves properly. After that mess of an event, one of their friends, the district head Yoshiho, is still unconscious and presumably dead. It's like she has no soul left. And after seeing that kind of magic, she probably doesn't. Alvin is also ashamed to admit that he'd taken them along into that death trap, but nobody could have predicted that. If Kim wasn't with them, they'd all be dead and they know it. That reality may come to pass next time though, as our protagonist has decided to move his way along to the next village with Young in tow. But after a little attempt to coax them into joining the Tower Clan, one that obviously fails, Kim reveals their next destination along the route to worldwide conquest, Darkmoom, which is where, you may be asking? I was too. Well, it's filled with people who arrived here in the 3rd to 4th year, so definitely not a beginner's town. Every established settlement has a clan looking after it. But that one is run by the Murder Clan. While Young's anxiety falls on deaf ears, poor dude, my man embarrasses himself without even realizing it. Oh, to be that naive. The two are also given their very high-level rewards, one of which being Abraham's Ring of Time Rewind, a rank A item, something that's sure as heck going to be useful. Saying their final goodbyes with smiles to go around, Kim gets things underway by whipping up the teleportation scroll Abraham had rewarded them with for finding his dungeon in the middle of nowhere. Once they disappear, Lewis grabs Alvin by the ear and an adorable couple moment ensues, giving away an A-ranked item, in ring form no less? What are they going to tell the clan leader? Dunno, don't care. Sounds like a you problem, lady. Instantly on the other side, Kim and Young arrive at Darkmoom in the land of murderous psychopaths, a very dark and dreary place full of mist and unseen terror. A perfect match for the people at houses. While Young is far from happy at being in such a dangerous place, can't blame him. Guy's gotten almost killed twice now. He asked the question of why they would come here of all blasted places, and Kim's response is a chilling one. That might be here, the one who chopped my family to bits. We start with Kim going through his memories of the horrific event that had destroyed his life. Sitting at work, his phone rings with the number of his wife and the man picks up, expecting to be greeted by a cheery hello. Instead, he hears her ask someone not to kill them, but the phone line cuts before he can hear what happens next. Probably for the best. The man rushes home, waking up from a dream shortly after. He goes to check another room and finds that this was no dream. His loved ones are... what a brutal way to start. You have my sympathy, dude. A voice off to the side chimes that they were begging for their lives. Though that just made killing them all the sweeter, says the murderer. Screaming for his vengeance, Kim actually wakes up this time, back into the bed he'd rented in the inn with Young. A dream. It was just a dream. His friend asks if he's okay, and yeah, it was just another nightmare. But through this abrupt wake-up, the both of them are a little more surprised to hear something off to their side. A note sliding in smoothly under the door like many of you into the comments, spamming for the next part. You know who you are. In essence, it's an invite to a test, one that will determine if you join the murdering clan. Upon arrival the next day, the event starts with Hellard Sifman announcing himself. They had really sent out a big shot this year round, and it shows. For when the crowd is too noisy, he just kills someone. With his goal gotten, the guy initiates their test by having his mate throw a bunch of spears out into the crowd. Names and faces of different people across the town or the entire region. Your job is to bring back the head of the person on your slip, along with the paper itself. The two of them then disappear into thin air to watch the festivities from afar. Some of these thugs have the mindset of murder for personal profit, and as such, don't value human life. It is a wise choice then that the two leave with haste. Young wants to intervene, but now ain't the time. He has to suck it up while they walk away. The boys say that these guys are out of their minds, killing others to get their slips to make the process easier. But Kim reminds him of the clan most of these monsters are trying to join. They're only here so he can find the person who killed his wife and kid. Oh, look at the time, it's killing o'clock. They swiftly get surrounded by various men who tell them to drop all the valuables and other run-of-the-mill stuff. In the lair of the murder clan, Hellard's friend tells that he's created quite an interesting situation, pairing Kim and a certain person together. Hellard asks who he thinks would win, and the answer is that homicidal maniac. Perfect fit for the murder clan, plus he has a uniquely useful skill. Meanwhile, out in the wilderness of the unlawful city, Kim is asking about a certain man who leaves X marks on the backs of the victims he kills. The idiot murderer seems to think he's just acting all tough, and charge him with swing after slash of a short dagger. Kim really shows off here by dodging each and every one without so much as a change of expression. Good luck with that. Another tries the sword throwing tactic to nail the main character, but soon as the blade gets close enough, he parries it with a simple flick of the wrist, and grabs the hilt out of the air during its pass, looking very unamused at the idea of becoming a shish kebab. Throwing the blade back like the world's longest flipping the bird, he sends the guy back into a wall with the force of a car collision. But the last guy standing is trying his best to stay that way, attacking Kim makes time slow down. The power of that ring. Time is only slow from his perspective, but using this to his advantage, he decks the guy trying to slice him and the sob goes tumbling back into the body of his former colleague. Turning to see how Young is doing, the other guys were also super weak enough to be taken on without a sweat. Kim grabs the guy he just punched by collar and pulls him upright, asking one more time if he's heard of the one who leaves an X mark on his victims. Surprise, he has. In fact, he was from the same region as Kim in their original world. That murderer is here in Darkmoom, and he's actively looking for Kim because of the clan test. So that friendly face on his target's poster was a killer? That's a bit chilling, since they say he looked nice enough. and apparently these goons were paid off by the same guy to bring Kim's head back to them. The poor murderer has the light scared out of him when he looks up to see Kim's bloodthirsty eyes, those of a vengeful father who has nothing left in this world to lose, and all of it to gain. Take me there, now. And so the little man does as he's told for the sake of saving his own butt, and we finally get a glimpse of this killer's face. Indeed, he looks nice enough at first, but when he looks down at the slip with Kim's face on it, oh no. Burn it, get the bleach from my eyes. No, not Ichigo, never mind. Young asks if his big friend is alright, and Kim just replies coldly to keep moving. They are led to the man's place of residence and told the floor number. After a short walk up the flight of stairs, the two men are ready to kick some butt and destroy their opponent, but he was a bit too clever to leave himself in plain sight. The guy who led him there attacks with glowing eyes spread sleepily as if in some kind of trance. When Kim turns on his heel and punches the man away, his fist is grabbed, pulling the protagonist forward in such a way he'd be falling into the possessed guy. The same possessed guy whose upper torso starts glowing with a violently eerie light, prompting Kim to shout, "Get down!" to a very taken back Young who does as instructed. Moments later, Kim is leaping on top of the man with the face of aggravation and murder, and a blast rips through the back wall and down the foundations of the door they were standing in moments before. Now the entire building is engulfed in flames and dark soot, leading Young's pursuer, that is to say, the man holding his slip, to think his quarry deceased beyond measure of recovery. Within a big blast such as that, nothing could survive without severe charring, yes? And up the stairs behind his pursuer comes the prey Kim has been looking for this whole time, the murderer himself. Your day about to get a whole lot worse, bro. Kim's prey goes on a miniature rant about how the pursuer is much weaker than he is, so everything should be left to him, and how he loves finding people like this. Using his skill of strong soul, the murderer happily walks over to the edge, concerned that Kim has died already from that explosion. If he had, this wouldn't be any fun at all. But lo and behold, you vile piece of language. I'm on YouTube, must not swear. Thankfully, Kim ain't bit the bucket just yet, because he's hobbling out the fire all charred and black with Young aiding his small strides. Going back to their own room within the city under the ever so watchful gaze of eyes prying on the event, no doubt amusing to them, the murderer makes his way over to that area as well whilst twirling his blade around on a gloved finger, ready to kill once more for his own demented joy. After tanking that many explosion scrolls, Kim shouldn't be able to stand at all, much less defend himself, and Young is someone he could take care of easily. I'd like to see you try, especially when both of them are waiting around that staircase, you big buffoon. And we finally get a name for the psychopathic piece of garbage. Let's just go with Garbage, Park Yun-sung. A small while earlier, Kim had used one of his most invaluable skills to repair himself from the severity of damage courtesy of the incident. It's not very efficient and still uses a metric boatload of magic. Sorry, Imperial, we come from more than a drunk mathematician, and it takes a while to operate properly. But from shrugging off such a blast, another new benefit had also been realized from the precipice of defeat. The shackles of Zahar had synchronized with the skill Solidify, and upgraded it to something called Magic Armor. This skill works similar to Lewis's magical barriers as seen in the Abraham fight, but they cover his body instead and allow creation of form he desires with the barriers. This A-rank skill alone would help a lot, but more so would the memories return to the man pending his side of the slip. Young is finally notified of just who they are facing, and through a little bit of talking and tribulation, we learn that Kim had actually caught the man once before in a bit of furious chasing. But before he could twist Park's knife within his own darn gut, a police officer had stopped the revenge by grabbing his wrist and presumably detaining him. But even though he was a dirty serial killer who had ruined the life of a man, nobody seemed to remember him after a while. All of a sudden, it was back to a normal life, and now the memories come flooding back, meaning the photo is a trigger of some major kind. Young grabs his sword, wanting nothing more than to chop the guy to bits for what he's done, but he's held off by Kim, who says that this current situation is fine. Park only really goes for weaker opponents. Skipping back to the present, the murderer asks Kim how he's still alive, let alone uninjured in the slightest. Rightfully, the protagonist reserves the right to decline answering those questions, and the idiot fluffs up the rest of his days by poking fun at how weak Kim's wife and daughter were. After seeing that murderer's face, we all know how this is going to end. Kim leans to one side and asks Young if he could take care of the background guys, and the answer is an easy yes. Kim starts making his way toward Park, who walks away, ordering his soldiers to block them while saying that he'd see them next time. As the angry Papa Bear so aptly puts it after using his ring, "No, you don't have a next time." Railing Park to the ground with the right hook, the stricken man orders that he be protected. Young instead uses a giant glowy sword to stab and stop them, saying that them side characters should just stay together. My man knows his role. Good on you, mate. Now back to the beatdown. Asking if Park finally knows what he's gotten himself into, the guy tries to slice at Kim only for him to disappear and come walking right back up, with a fist that implants itself in the floor where Park just was, leaving a giant crater to mark the almost death. Park thinks this is impossible. How is Kim that strong? He'd only been here for a month at most, while Park had been here for at least 3 years. Yet, he gets outclassed in every way and beaten to a bloody pulp by magic armor, the new skill that covers Kim's fist to fight. Finally, another good fight scene. This manhwa is chock full of interesting and clever design, even if it starts a bit cliche. Trying to stab at Kim's hand and apparently missing the giant glowing plates of mana covering it. Come on, my dude, you clearly have a brain, so use it. The blade shatters on impact and the punch lands square in the dome between his eyes, flattening Park's face into a Minecraft default world. Again and again, Kim strikes, taking out all the repressed rage and anger over his family's demise. The vitriol, the hatred, the everything. Pouring it into each assault on the one who had taken so much, returning it with a force that shatters Park's skull from consecutive punishment. But even through the torment, the murderer pleads for his life. Every single one of them begged you with the same line. No mercy today, mother trucker. Kim is now even more enraged, going with the punches to his prey's oh so beautiful face. Because of this man, he'd never see his family again. Because of this man, Min-ah, Eun-kyung, and everyone else he'd killed would never be able to see their loved ones. Kim isn't going to sit around and wait for karma to take her due. He's been actively taking the initiative and pummeling down the man like a hailstorm of thunderous rage. Discarding his pleas just as he'd left Min-ah and Eun-kyung wanting mercy, finally deciding to end this all, Kim takes the sword at its hilt. Discarding his pleas just as he'd left Min-ah and Eun-kyung wanting mercy. Finally deciding to end this all, Kim takes the sword at its hilt and raises to strike, looking down at the sorry excuse one last time before the deed is done. Killer Edge claims one more victim as their blood flies from a decapitation. Now the man sits in silence off to one side, staring down at the floor in depression from the vile acts he just committed. Jung is silent for a few moments before noticing the book in his hand, asking plainly and softly what it is. Kim gently replies that it's his diary, one that was gifted to him by his loving wife. Park decides it's best to leave the poor guy alone for a bit, closing the door behind him while the grieving father processes that his revenge had been achieved. He'd finally killed the man who took everything from him, but it was as bittersweet as can be. How many times had he dreamed of this moment? This single point of agony, of strife. He can finally relax, but even doing all of this wouldn't bring them back. It wouldn't change anything. Those tears now fall, for in his victory laid in wait the horrifying void of emptiness, the reprieve a momentary prison of reality. Later that day, after a long session of crying and the flood of emotions that come with it every time, Jung pops his head in to see how the boss man is doing. The endearing idiot is at least able to get a smile from Kim. Plus, they have really good luck. They were able to get the heads of both their targets while out here. Moving to go and hand in their targets, the men stand in line behind someone who failed the test. The referee sends him away with a laid-back warning of pain should he BS them again, and the two big boys step forward to give their dues and slips. With the guy's surprise and enjoyment, they pass without hesitation. Now they get the chance to join the murderer clan, and are each given a little black pill to swallow. Should they accept this offer, they will gain strength, membership, and flashy new badges. Cool. Though I'm unsure of why they would be into such a dark clan, Kim probably has more of a plan somewhere down the line. Each throws the pill into their mouths and are given the status, but soon after they spit it out. Ah, the old hide it under your tongue trick never fails. What he had tried to feed them was the dark seed of demon. The black marble suddenly bursts with energy in his hand, getting absorbed into the shackles and causing Kim some pain while doing so. Let me guess, some sort of power boost again? So soon? Well, yes, but actually, maybe? The shackles are undergoing a transformation spurred by the black mist from that seed as Kim had held it. All that power getting pulled into his wrist with not a drop to spare. It upgrades the shackles to A rank and adds demonic energy as a factor of his stats. And the entire bracelet had melded with his wrist, which is not pretty to look at in my opinion, but each their own. Kim also amusingly makes himself out to be the special character in this world, for if he doesn't touch the other seed, it won't be absorbed. And one cute moment by the special TL and QC later, we're on our way back to Melin. Alvin is in his office working away with Lewis, who seems to be having a grand time on her extended break. If she has the time to sit around with T, she has the time to help him. But let us not forget who it was that hid his shenanigans from the guildmaster. That's right, buddy. Gotta have the patience for a girl if you want that future wife. She clearly likes you, so why not go for it? Oh, that's why. They found Kim and Jung. The two have been fine, but showing their badges to a very irate Alvin Walker, this delicate situation will require quite the decent explanation if they're to make it out alive. Demon seeds. Those who joined the murdering clan were given this as an initiation, though to be nothing but an item that makes people stronger with time. Everyone swallowed the demon's marble, as I'm calling it, for reasons, but those flowers opened in their stomachs, forcefully morphing humans into heinous demonic beings that completely consume their hosts in the process. Alvin's head begins to throb as he goes through all the events one more time. A pity you guys don't have coffee down there, eh? A lot more stuff would get done with just one cup. But apparently even when showing them the demon seed, Lewis and Alvin are confused as no appraisals can be had. The truth regarding the demon marble is that it's not just an item, but an egg. Kim proves as much by destroying the outer layer in his hand by crushing, pouring out the demonic energy and leaving a baby demon in wake of the scary black aura. When asking how he could even know about the existence or truth of such matters, Kim decides it'd be best to show rather than tell, so he whips out the demonic energy residing inside him and shows the shackle that's melded into his wrist. Again, not pretty to look at, but part of the story, so meh. For the moment, they would have to consider this new information seriously. But if this goes the way Alvin assumes, it's going to lead to war with the Murderers clan. Those are some pretty spicy words, Mr. Walker. Putting aside Jung's unyielding loyalty, phrased in such a way where it sounds like very extreme love, I ship it. Lewis walks into a room full to the brim with the presence and pressure of all 5 clan representatives from across the region, each one having their symbol displayed here and no names given, so I'll do my best with what we have, thanks for being understanding. As she had explained prior to their meeting, the Murderer clan has been affiliating themselves with demonic entities, and the baby one within a vial was her proof. How did the Tower clan come to know this truth? They have an informant which she will not divulge the name or information of. Wow, these guys care more about privacy than most modern companies. Better step up your game, my dudes. With nobody disagreeing that something of huge importance is afoot, the clan leaders remain silent while Louis starts discussions on how to deal with this, and how to start the war properly. And in true protagonist form, Kim is rejecting the idea of protection from the clan by staying behind, in favor of a more active reward for his services regarding the Hellspawn. Kim has asked to spar with Alvin in order to get his bearings on facing human threats in this world, particularly those of noteworthy strength far and above his own. Alvin will only use his right hand with the sword for the time being, which is a pretty confident move, but it must be founded on some basis. Meanwhile, Louise is progressing smoothly in her war talks with the other clan reps, a plan being made with much deliberation and suggestion to surround the city of Darkmoon and hunt out the demon infected by way of raiding parties sent in to snoop for the members of their clan. And apparently Alvin wasn't being overly confident in his own abilities, but rather trusting of his talent. For a whole week later, and not Kim nor Jung have made it any closer to knocking him around, much less breaking his guard. Alvin reminds them that fighting human opponents is not just about their physical strength nor the usage of their skills, but combining the two with intelligence, tactfulness, and minute adjustments to form a combat style. Some great training here, and in only a moment after attacking for a final test, does Kim manage to understand the meaning of those words. Using his magical armor's malleability increasingly well, he jumps off a floating plate midair and slices down at Alvin with renewed force, even through the tiredness pervading his veins. It's just not quite enough to knock Alvin down. Through the destruction of his foothold and a bounding leap through the air from a second plate much higher than the last, Kim gets within range of a sword attack and takes his chance with all the gusto he has left. Alvin sidesteps this, nailing the man within the stomach to force him into a reverse roll. Yet he states that Kim has won, likely because the beat of a protagonist has learned something of value from this. Now watching Jung's turn, the poor kid runs around like a headless chicken trying to get away from the bemused Alvin, who keeps chasing him with a sword. Run, boy! Run! And as the sun sets after these delightful days learning from some of the best, so does any peace of quiet they may have enjoyed. Tomorrow is the big day, where clans would duke it out over this messy demon situation. Debating why Kim would request to join this fight in the first place, the protagonist knows that his diary warned him of something. Avoiding all negative events within this new world they find themselves caught in would likely mean he'd never see his family again, ever. Let's not forget why he's doing all of this in the first place. At least, for the time being, all clans had come together to face one united enemy under a single set of goals. Destroy the treacherous wretches residing within Darkmoon, prevent more demonic beings from coming to bear, and to save the world from the unfolding chaos. And it would all begin now. Having entered a small city away from the chaos with the more advanced squad of the Tower clan, of which one member, some D named Jackal, seems displeased, Kim and Jung help the three hunt for their prey. First, Jackal gets posted to a town in the middle of nowhere, then he has to aid in babysitting 2 runs for the Reserve Corps? Nuh-uh, he's not having any of this. And we're not having any of your attitude, you worthless side character. Walking through the barrier that separates the territory of each faction, the team heads forward towards the crossroads closing in ahead. The strong scent of some kind of drug draws the attention of the team's leading member. He has them all halt for a moment while considering the options, settling on sending Jackal away from the perceived newbies to get him out of their hair, and probably to his death, in which case good riddance, you piece of trash. Now onward! Walking still through the abandoned streets of cobble and silence, bar their own heartbeats and crunches underfoot, the lead has them outside and across from a large white building in no time at all. When they enter, it appears that men and women are strewn across the place like living decor of death and decay. It doesn't take long for the guy to realize that a candle scented with heinous drugs is to blame for this bollocks predicament of the poor people surrounding them in number. Smashing the thing with his bare fist, not sure how you do that to an active candle, but okay. He instructs both Kim and Jung to take the civilians outside and to the edges of the territory. Instead, the boys start by cutting open the civvies. What? I'm not sure death is how you save people from pain. There are better ways. Though it seems his intuition and context of the story is correct, for no sooner does the boss turning his back toward the others and almost get skewered by the knives of the so-called woman. Kim's magic armor is all that stands between the iron-fisted head of the party and certain demise. Taking a moment to properly breathe, the man reopens his eyes to the sight of multiple armed assassins ready to dish out some punishment. Is this part of that demonic upgrade he got? No, then Jung would have been none the wiser either. It was the candle creating hallucinogenic effects across the room. Starting off strong, Kim and Jung leap around the boss, who just stands there dumbfounded that they could spot such a thing before him. The two men put the closest assassins in their place while he considers what just happened. The candle he had snuffed out had been a trap. As two more members of the murderer guild rush him, the leader pulls back his fist and slams them each into a coma, if not instant blood-force death. Was his life just saved by this man? Well, duh. Chopping another in half, Kim is observed with a newfound respect as the lead throws the last assassin nonchalantly back into the wall, crushing him with just the force. The question here is, how did they know when to set the trap? How did they even know this group was coming? There's no way this was a coincidence. They knew when they would be attacked. They had the information leaked to them by an inside man, and something went horribly wrong. This is only confirmed by an echoing shriek of pain out in the streets, gracing the nigh abandoned city with an unholy scream of anguish. Alvin is staring in rage at a pile of corpses which consist of his guildmates and those of other clans, while another person behind him asks the same things Kim's group leader did, a guy called Turner who is one of the higher-ups that may have betrayed them. But the murderer guild was now the one in danger, as they had angered the legend that is Alvin Walker. If Turner is scared, he can turn tail and head home. Alvin could do this on his own. But no, the fallen must be avenged by all those who are able. Their plan hasn't changed. Can't say the same for Kim's group. However, their leader would be going further in while the two of them are rushing back to the safe zone through the city streets. And past an alleyway where someone grunts as they're attacked, taking a look, the two of them find a group about to bang one of the remaining members of their team. Specifically the guy who had not wanted to babysit rookies. Oh, this'll be fun. Into submission. His assigned partner is nowhere in sight. As the group surrounds him, weapons at the ready with blood staining almost every shirt and piece of armor, he clicks that they're the ones who had gotten absolutely slaughtered. A pity since he was looking very eager to take them down. But here comes the pain train as both Kim and Jung step into the ring with swords out and vigor burning behind their eyes. Time to kick some bandit butt. Meanwhile, in the shadows of medieval buildings, the guild leader hides from groups rushing around with swords looking for him. All he can do is lean against the cold bricks to wait for reinforcements to arrive. On the scene, that side character is wondering how the hell these men have this much experience and power over people who have been in this world for years. Kim is slipping into people with a sword like their armor is paper, darting around and under Jung's giant sword ability. He's even moving around midair, which gives him a killer edge over his opponents. Like if you get it. He orders side characters to go and call their reinforcement, since he could at least do that much to help. Laying it on thick with the karma today, are we? Nevertheless, he doesn't argue and seems to know better than picking a fight with someone like this. As he practices for leg day, another group marches their way in to put a stop to this little escape, and Jung jokes about how they were supposed to be hurrying along to their destination. Kek. Seems like the tough father does have a bigger heart than he lets on. While these goons are dispatched so they could buy some time for the runner to get his cardio in, an overwhelming sense of dread forces itself upon Kim's senses. The urgency to dodge had never been more prevalent, so covering himself in Jung in magic armor just barely in time, a massive magical slice goes through the new party of murderers on the scene. His name is Sir Geoffrey. Must not make joke. Waves of magic blades swirl around the alleyway just after the goons get behind their boss, Kim failing twice to figure out exactly what it is. But what he does learn through the virtue of pain is how it pierces his magic armor. But it's not so simple as Jeff thinks, for he notices the group leader behind them prepping a punch. This is enough power and shockwaves to break the ground beneath it, forming a ray of force which takes out the remainder of the small fry in the cramped alleyway behind their fight. Jeff had somehow managed to get out of the way in time, probably using some kind of super speed, and does admit that was a dangerous attack. But the big scary leader had used the last of his magical energy to throw it. They had done well to hold their own against him for that short time. Jeffrey Dahmer, an infamous member of the murderer clan. Strong as heck, sure, but what he's more well known for is a little thing called cannibalism. Hey Karma, can I borrow your hammer? Somebody needs smiting. This dude is specialized in defeating hordes of weaker opponents, which makes him quite a force to be reckoned with. He asks if they're done talking over here because he's getting hungry. James, why are you grinning? Okay, I'm sure that's fine. Leader takes the brunt of the hits with magic armor, and now that his flow is gone, they could catch his blade. Jung then pulls a superhero move by leaping from the nearest building overhead, using his giant sword to come crashing down on the party and ruin Jeff's day. It's blocked by one of his two cleavers. Excuse me, how? That's not how mass works. And while he's distracted, off with his head. After the fact and once reinforcements has arrived, the leader is picked up by Mr. Side Character. He'd unfortunately lost his fancy gauntlets in battle, but he refuses to take all the praise for bringing down Geoffrey, instead opting to be thankful for those two reserve clan members who had saved his behind twice in a row. Those two were utter monsters, and Jung says exactly what I was thinking here. You don't block a giant magic blade with a tiny cleaver. But after the flashback, group leader is informed that the two of them have disappeared into thin air, and no matter how hard the side character looked, he couldn't find them. Boss ain't happy with this and orders the dude to find them now, as he told the two to just take a rest. There's no way he could face Walker Alvin like this. Kim and Jung have in fact disappeared, but not in the way you think. They've gone underneath the city to the underground labyrinth, a hidden dungeon that they will have to cross to find the murdering clan's secret. How does he know about this place? Because protagonist, that's how. Then, out of the blue, Jung attacks him. Kim stares intently at his friend as the chills run down his spine, though it quickly fades when he realizes Jung isn't in control of himself. Wide eyes, blank expression, and mouth agape, the telltale signs of control. With a dash and swing at him, Jung clashes swords with the savior and gets punched across the jaw in an attempt to wake him up with a few welts. Nope, that don't work so quickly. He just stands back up like a champ and prepares to resume the attack. How are you supposed to deal with something like this? Leaping into his memories, we reminisce over the time Alvin was training them for the war. If this was too hard, he could just drop out right now. They're only having this session of sparring in the first place because Kim specifically asked for it. But no, he wants to continue and learn as much as he can, despite the toughness of the challenge. To stand next to Kim, he had to do at least that much. He can't fall behind and just become a lump of dead weight. Well, yeah, but Kim is abnormally strong for the world he's in right now. Jung is doing pretty damn well for himself. He gets up to attack Alvin again in the dream and Kim in reality, who dodges under the blade while he figures out what to do. Wait, this fog, it's demonic energy, right? Leaping on top of Jung and holding him down by the wrist, he pulls a big brain moment and expands his cranium with the notion that it may be able to get sucked out by the shackles. Don't take that out of context, please. Putting the shackle over Jung's heart while the man gives something of a growl, it activates and chews up all the bad vibes in the air around him, which releases the man from the control spell. After getting a flick on the head and spouting a bit of nonsense about Kim killing him if it happens again, the older man flicks him again and reminds the boy that they are allies who would have to work together in order to get through this. It's a huge relief just to have someone he can call a friend here, so he shouldn't consider himself dead weight in any capacity. They're like family now. Is he crying right now? No, of course not. Kim would sit and wait, letting his friend have the little rest he'd been needing to weep it out. He knows. Meanwhile, the murdering guild's leader asks his underling what the situations in the other areas of the territory are. Not including Dark Moon, everywhere else had fallen victim, even Brahm. They did indeed succeed in a counterattack, but Walker Alvin decided to stop by and pull a deuce full. Unfortunately for them, the seeds would only start blooming within their hosts in 3 months. And who are the ones who figured out these seeds? Kim Yoon-jae and Yoo Jong-gyu. I know Kim's original last name was Dae-rim, but the translations say otherwise, so we're gonna roll with it. Once the full of judge has been sufficiently threatened, the guild leader of the murderer guild is going to check on that, because something don't feel right. Down in the dungeons, Jung's blade is stained with the blood of the many dead wolves they've found and killed. They leave the part of the cave and Jung checks they're going the right way, as it's basically a maze in here. Well, yes, that's what a labyrinth is. They find that they are indeed going the right way, and reaching a room with several colored doors would confirm this. They would be taking the red door, and while Jung admits how it's simply incredible that his friend knows this kind of thing seemingly by instinct, his tune very quickly swings to WTF when he checks the other side. Awaiting them was the biggest bear he had ever seen, and if they wanted to get past, they'd have to sneak quietly to the black door on the other side of the cavern. Jung makes the mistake of kicking a pebble while they're crossing the room, making enough noise for the creature to stir a little bit, but it's not loud enough to cause it to wake up, likely sounding like a rat or something scurrying about in the cave. They manage to get through to the other side without a hitch, and Jung sighs while bent over. When he gets up to see what the heck they would have to face off against this time, it's a giant tree? Yeah, one that stretches at least a kilometer, if not more, above into a starry night sky. Magic. But despite Jung's comparison to the world tree from Norse mythology, this tree ain't got no sacred meaning. Nah, this is a demon tree. Looking at the marbles growing off its bark, those are demon seeds, chief. Just like the ones that guy had given them upon joining the guild. There's no telling just how many of these darn things there are. And if they were all to hatch, the word chaos wouldn't even begin to describe the amount of damage it could cause. They had come here to conduct some welfare checks and ensure all the children were correctly taken care of. But while Kim admits that it'd be hard for them to destroy something this big, as always, he has some semblance of a plan. Putting his hand to the tree, his stamina temporarily drops while the demonic energy from the tree begins to get absorbed through the shackles of Zahar. Once it matched his magic state at a solid 96, Jung's task becomes apparent. Taking hold of his sword and bringing out the giant's blade, he begins to hack away at the massive roots which shake the foundations of the entire plant. Meanwhile, back in the city of Troom, the meeting of several clan heads resumes. The progress of this war is looking good so far, and though the losses suffered at Brahm were huge, Alvin and Turner had done well to take care of business. Now the only problem was where Hellard Sifman, their big boss, was at. After a bit more discussion, the meeting is interrupted by an emergency message. The aforementioned man has gone missing from Dark Moon, and the murder clan members they have in captivity are beginning to vomit up all their demon seeds. As the tree gives its final set of quakes, Jung successfully chops through the last of its wood and causes the entire top half to timber. It had taken enough out of the guy that he releases a victory cry of, "I did it!" before looking down at his now worn blade, which is basically falling apart. And on that exact note, the remaining bits fall apart in his hands, meaning he now has a lack of a weapon. Well, ain't that good timing? Kim stomps the ground angrily in the background until a hole gives way under him. Jung rushes over to the edge of this artificial cliff and peers down, only to hear Kim ordering him to quit the yapping and come on in. Doing so, they find a literal treasure trove of items. This is a secret stash that the murdering clan had squirreled away in case of an emergency. Lots of decent grade items and even some decent cash. He throws the guy a new sword, claiming it looks to be the best they have in stock. And we get our first look at the blood of Muhammad, a blade that grows stronger and sharper by absorbing the blood of its victims. So it's a vampire. Kim meanwhile decides to grab a new blade while he's down here, opting for the half-evil sword Baltrix, which is infused with both holy and demonic energy. And then they get a real peace of mind from Lady Luck as Jung spots an undiluted elixir, capable of bringing people back from the dead unlike the one he was saved with. Now that their task here was done, the only thing they would need to do is head home. But that means they would have to get past the bear again. Jung goes to see if it's asleep, and wouldn't you know it, here's Yogi, and he's fresh out of picnic baskets. They climb through the door and do a few things before we rejoin them mid-battle. This bear is throwing out a ton of demonic energy, and he's a lot tougher than first impressions give, though they can discuss that after dodging the sweeping strike. Kim makes good use of his items and skills, setting his new sword alight with magic and boosting off one of the floating armor panels to slice a clean path through the beast, setting its wounds on fire. Jung uses his giant sword to smash into its leg, and they finally see a drop in its overall speed and recovery. Stacking damage on it would reward them with a sweet victory, but Kim would also need to figure out somehow what this demonic energy stat is used for. And then the bear does something that no grizzly should ever be able to. Emits a glow of ominous light from its mouth. A light which turns into a plume of energy, not too dissimilar from a jet's afterburner. I wonder if that's how new parts of the cave were made. Kim and Jung don't have any time to spare as the former hops from panel to panel mid-air. The bear does it again, and this time it's blocked with magic armor, which is enough to take them up to the surface. And face to face with Hellard Sifman. This ought to be fun. With him now on the scene, the big guy want to know what these two scamps were doing down in their special little hidey hole. Are they Jeffrey's replacements? After a moment of hesitation, Kim smartly answers that yes, they are here to guard the place should anything happen to Jeff. Alright then, sounds good enough. So what happened behind him then? Simple answer, Le Bear decided it was rage time and they looked like pretty good snacks. Final question, and most important thus far, is the tree safe? Yes sir, right this way. And then Kim proceeds to talk behind the guy's back, likely not anticipating him to hear them. He turns at the last second to face the two, recognizing them as the people who killed Din, the traitors to their guild. Uh-oh. Kim Yun-jae, yes? Well, darn. But before we get to that, a mandatory jump back to Dark Moon is in order. It was so easy to remove the rest of these killers with their protective lead gone. Who would have thunk it? Turner is thanked for all his hard work and being instrumental here, and the others thank him to be nothing short of a rarity, a polite man even in the face of this odd world and its calamities. A big gentleman at heart. Yeah, you all know that's a straight lie by now. He's the mole, with no better evidence than this scene of him walking into the room where two members of the murderer clan reside. Mr. Sifman had gone up to Garam where the demon tree had been residing until meeting its untimely fate, though it was a little late to go checking up on something like that right now. Turner couldn't even fathom how things had turned out like this, but the ponytail dude who I recognize as Sifman's second in command just turns around and points out how it's awfully convenient timing. First the demon seeds, which okay was a bit outside of expectations, but then the labyrinth, the obscure and rather specific pathway to get to the demon tree that only executive officers in the guild know of. Pretty convenient for all of that to come up, huh? The only logical way he could see something like that being leaked is if a spy were to slip up their little tongue and let loose the torrent of secrets. Turner says Kim Tae-han has really grown a set. If he wants to die, he'll keep on yapping. If not, well, time to shut that pretty little mouth before it loses a few teeth and maybe the tongue. Tae-han retreats from the situation by claiming Sifman would soon be making her move? So Sifman isn't the top dog around these parts? Oh dear. But if she's planning to start moving her pawns around and shuffling the enemy, they would have to have a nice long discussion with Sifman once he'd returned. It was very likely he'd be back soon enough anyhow, as there was no force in the entire guild besides the clan leaders who could top him in the ring of battle. Standing before the most powerful foe they've met thus far in the series, the two men shiver a bit with doubt that they'll be able to defeat this one. Sifman is glad to finally meet the famous rat who had sold them out to the clans. He wasn't even sure they'd make it within the labyrinth, but he'll save the questions for later, as right now the most important thing is to crush them underfoot and force them to tell him. Then everything turns red as a misty cloud of blood bursts forth from nowhere, leaving Kim unable to concentrate. This skill would be quite the pain to his combat ability. Jumping aside from the viscous spikes of crystallized crimson headed his way, Kim manages to get through unscathed, but the same can't be said for Jung. Seeing how they could handle the bloody wall, they were quite a unique breed compared to the rest of them. Jung had just barely avoided receiving a fatal wound from the spike that pierced him, lying on the ground, clutching his chest in pain and giving Sifman more to work with. He asks what happened to the giant demonic tree and is told the honest truth. It was cut the fluff down, and he demolished the den of rabid murderers in doing such things. Was there such a big problem? Oh, I wouldn't be getting this confident in front of him. Not when he got your family jewels in a vice grip, but it's less about the murderer guild and more about the demons. With their plan now in tatters, they would be highly unpleased, wouldn't they? Grabbing a hold of a blood spear, Sifman thrusts it towards him and forces Kim to duck backwards, leaving him unable to move much. Certainly not enough to dodge the hail of spikes from above, right? Wrong. With agility rarely seen outside the clans, he moves through the storm like a pro, dancing like a little monkey to the tune of splatters on the grass beneath. But even with his time rewind and magic armor, it's impossible to dodge them all. Sifman appears right behind him with the red sword in hand, swatting with it. While Kim is tumbling away, the scary boss notices demonic energy radiating from his opponent. Relentlessly pushing the man to his breaking point, Sifman isn't about to let up on the wanton destruction, nor the chance at gaining more blood. Kim's new blade parries the blow from his nemesis, who says he'd be willing to make the death painless if Kim just told him how he'd found out about the underground dungeon. Instead, Sifman is asked a question. Why is he trying to side with the demons? They don't mix with humanity, clearly. The answer is short and bitter. None of it matters. Which side he picks. Whoever lets him kill more is the best ally there is. Oof, that's an uncanny view on life if I've ever seen one. A blade manifests inches away from Kim's face to end the conversation, and Sifman's boredom. Yet the blood splatters on contact with a much harder surface. Jung's giant sword skill noms the vortex being sent its way, absorbing all the blood on contact. Kim teases that he was going to die waiting for that, but still, perfect timing as always. But how did he block Sifman's attack, you may be asking? Well, if you didn't notice a fine detail on that new sword of his, it absorbs blood to make itself stronger and sharper. The blood of Muhammad, which now has quite the cool red tint to its sharpness, though Jung's eyes are horribly shot. It's basically poison to Sifman, who has to accumulate large amounts of blood to fight with. If they can absorb all his attacks, it could be a possible victory. Bossman states aloud that nothing has changed even if Jung does have a new pointed metal stick. Showering the two with a hail of attacks in hope to dice them up nice and good, Jung's giant blade works overtime while Kim parries as many as he can from the rear. They're holding their own pretty well for the first bit. Back in town, meanwhile, the search for these two has gone on for at minimum a month, but they can't just be dead since no bodies have been found. And then Mr. Side Character spots it. A cloud of blood not too far outside the city, and that can only mean one thing: time to call for backup. Within that storm, Jung collapses from exhaustion. Boy, do I feel that, and Kim orders him to get up again, but nothing happens. Sifman says he's dead. The more blood that sword eats, the more it bushes on its wielder over time. Yeah, you get a big boost in strength for a while, but that comes with one hell of a crash afterward. Someone like him was basically waving it around like his birthright would very quickly get taught this lesson. What, did they honestly think that by pulling a fast one on the murdering clan, the grand plans would have been halted? Kim's memories of his family's deaths replays endlessly in his mind. The outstretched arm of his wife, the smiling face of Park, Jung's words about wanting to live so he could return to his siblings and take care of them. He didn't want to die. Kim promised to keep him alive. The magic and demonic energy in his blood begin to blend into some unholy cacophony of power. A new active skill, Overflow, has been acquired. 3 times? An exponential increase of that much makes him somewhat of a threat. Getting behind Sifman in less than a second, it takes half as long for the brute to parry the slice thrown at him. But by the time he's dealt with the recoil, Kim is already making multiple more cuts, glowing blue arcs winding in from everywhere, which distracts Sifman enough for Kim to make a direct cut at his abdomen. The bigger man tries to dodge this whooshing blade coming straight for his body by leaning back out of the path, and it does work, but it also leaves him open for another strike, one which draws a small amount of blood from Kim. The cut does land, the blade does hit its target. The problem is that it doesn't do anything except leave a tear in the man's jacket. It can't even pierce his skin? That's how much of a lopsided fight this is? Well then, guess he'll die. Though Sifman was surprised with the sheer magnitude of the magic blasting off his opponent's body, it wasn't even enough to surpass his physical resistance. And then the blood cloud splits open at one end, courtesy of the old group leader punching his way through with some heavenly thundering fists. Sifman is quite annoyed by this, as it'd be just another annoying little bug to swat off his radar, but a certain someone coming in from the rear seems to disagree. Bug? That's a little harsh, coming from someone who's having such a hard time thanks to these bugs. The cavalry has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. Walker Alvin has entered the scene. For Sifman to know his name, oh now that's quite the big honor from a murderer. One wide slash later, and Sifman is the one dodging to not get dunked on. A Mr. Guan Gi Huang, the group leader from before who I'll shorten to Guan, is asked with taking care of the boys. Seems like the chipmunk wants to deal with this prey himself. Oh, he's not scared now, is he? Alvin pulls one of the bigger moves out of his arsenal for such a big fish as this. An ethereal fire comes to life around him, sprouting phantom wings out of the back of his armor with white shroud. Sifman is then surrounded and coiled in red, turning into a monster who looks like a blood beast. With the embodiments of angelic and demon ready to dance together in a storm of anguish, Kim and Guan can only watch wide-eyed as can be. The two rush into a blinding clash which begins to take with the entire sections of the forest they stand in with each blow, waves of light coming forth with thunderous rings echoing across the land. But they don't seem to want to see more than that, sadly. Gotta keep the story rolling. Later down the line, while Luis and Alvin are having some tea together, the woman laments that in order to come to this world they now reside in, people would have to go through that process. And since the time had come to welcome a new group to the world, those two had already been here for a year. They then head off to the Demon Woods. Luis just hopes nobody else has to get hurt. Flashing back to Alvin's return from the battle with Sifman, he'd been in critical state with wounds everywhere. but he's also given the former executive of that guild a right beating before going down, considering they all came in with serious injury. Later, while he had been waking up and recovering, she'd slapped his back and another couple's moment had taken place in the midst of this chaos. Oh, well ain't that cute. Pity it's in the medieval version of a hospital ward. She continues to choose violence by slapping him some more, clearly worried about him and showing it in the way of rage. And to those who left comments about the tsundere wife thing, it was a joke. I'm dumbfounded someone took it seriously. Kim and Jung have a good old laugh from the chairs across and seem to be doing well, despite being covered in bandages. Kim apologizes for his rash actions that had put them all in danger. With Sifman now locked up underground and bound in magical chains that kept his power sealed, there is no feasible way he would be able to escape on his own. The only, and they mean only, reason he's still alive is obvious: information. They'll pull whatever they can from him. But while Kim and Jung should be resting in the interim to heal up from their wounds, they instead plan to go out to the Demon Woods. Bro, have you ever heard of burnout? Yes, Kim knows what kind of terrifying place he's talking about. Winding paths, constant mirages, and no hope of finding the exit. Ghost monsters that don't care about no physics, yet they do still be going, because if they walk away, it'll be with strength they'd never thought possible before. Alvin actually laughs from their tenacity. But one flaw here, Chief. How do they get back from said windy woods? Through an item that the Tower Clan possesses, of course. Oof. So you ain't coming for a friendly visit, this is all business. But in return for that item, they would be coming back alive, or he'd find them in the afterlife, bring him to life, kill him again, and dance on the graves. Jumping back to the present day, it's a little relief that they ain't here right now for whatever reason. For the moment, it'd be better if they just stayed away. Meanwhile, in the forest, Kim is having himself a grand old time splitting enemies in two. And once Jung has saved his behind, the gyroscopic compass is pulled out to take him home. Oh boy. Within the Middle Grounds, as they are called, an expedition is about to make their merry way through uncharted territory through a sea of giant dark wooded trees and shade. They said this was an important region marked for survey, so it would have to be checked out, and the map charted. What with the murder clan being up in here, demons have been getting real uppity. One rustle in their tree line later, and the group has swords drawn and ready, a white luminous glow appearing ahead of them. A bear? A plane? No, it's a mystery, because all we get are their screams as whatever the heck it is spots a good lunch. The forest truly does echo with pain and suffering. Back in Troom within the headquarters for the Tower Clan, Alvin Walker is standing before the strongest man in their guild. He says the surveyors were an important group of elites, yet they were completely wiped. Stuff ain't gonna be easy down in those woods. What, is it Australian spiders or something? Have kangaroos been brought to this world? Either way, the Golden Lion Arjan, the head of their clan, is asking Alvin to go and investigate the area. But the problem is that he wants Alvin to take the reserve members with him. Their lives aren't of importance, only the results matter. But currently said reserves are on a leave of absence, so despite the guildmaster's request, he ain't meeting them. Not sure about that one. Now within the city of Troom once again, Jung is infinitely grateful that they could finally start to relax a bit, eating some good and proper food, having showers with some heated water, and last but not least, lying on some comfortable beds once again. This is heaven compared to the hell they had to face. But yeah, no, they're only here for a few days this time, as they plan to go out to the Middle Grounds. Oh no, this is the place that Alvin warned them about when they had first arrived. Beyond the mountains where the angel and demon were fighting. Identifying themselves to the guards at the Tower Clan's main building, the men gossip a little about these being the fabled reserves who had done a bunch of stuff. Finally getting through the checkpoint and walking away, the boys begin to wonder what kind of rumors are being spread about them behind the scenes. When you take on and survive some of the worst these places have to offer, yeah, you can kinda expect to become popular boys. They then see Louise in passing and she turns around curiously, only to recognize them and have a shocking revelation that the reserve had returned from their field trip. Grabbing them both and running like the wind, she drags them inside and probably goes looking for Alvin to hide them from the clan leader. He's not pleased when he turns the corner to see them, and the voice right behind him is the reason. Well, that plan failed spectacularly. Arjan opens the liquor cabinet to look for a decent drink while the rest of them sit on large white couches behind him in the rather bleak room. He'd much appreciate it if they would check out the Middle Grounds for him. A surveyor would be going with them, of course, to chart out the lands they may discover. He asks if they'd like anything to drink, tea, beer? Jung and Louise take their respective drinks, while both Kim and Alvin take nothing. Alvin asks why he's trying to send reserves into this. If it's just a pain in the backside he wants gone, curse those darn spies, where my pyro at? Then he can just send the man himself. Louise also opposes this trip, but much to the horror of their superiors, Kim says that they're willing to go. Arjan laughs that this is quite refreshing while the two are told they're crazy for going into a place like that. Had they lost any and all sense of fear after the Demon Woods? Kim retorts that he's aware of all the dangers it poses, but they did receive a quest to go there anyway, so might as well get it over with while they're ahead. Arjan laughs aloud at the coincidence that they would have something to do inside that place anyway, saying for a final word that he'll be sending them off with Alvin and a skilled surveyor. And that's the end of that. Have a nice trip, boys. Later, Alvin is storming off ahead all mad and pouty that they would just do this to him again. But it's more the fact that he don't get along with Arjan very well. He's among the first people to set foot in this land, and undeniably one of the strongest. But why doesn't Alvin like the first gen? Short answer, they sit on their butts all day and don't do anything except reap the rewards of leadership. They got the most info about this world, yet all they've done is raise clans instead of pushing forward to get home. Alvin pipes up that the people on top are just satisfied with their current positions and aren't willing to go back because that would mean giving up their authority in a place like this, which is something nobody in their right mind would want to do. But for now, he'd agreed to letting them go to the middle grounds on one condition: taking them downstairs into one of the clan's underground storage facilities. They come face to face with reinforced wood. Sounds like some of you in the early morning, eh? These are pieces of tree that came from the place that they were about to head to. If the two of them could cut half a handspan's worth into these pieces, he'd let them go. Alvin gives a simple demonstration of the force behind his swings, cleaving 80% through the log in front of him. That's a lot of power in this world. And now it's Kim's turn to show what he's really made of. This would determine his power in comparison as well, so I'm kinda eager to see what he can do. Should either one of them fail, neither are going, so they better make it count. Pouring magic into the blade held tight in his hand, Kim takes his one and only swing. Getting around 30% of the way through, he's about half of Alvin's current strength. This far surpasses a hand's length and is way overkill for him to head into those woods. This is on par with a ranker at best, though Kim is concerned that even focused with all his magic power, it wouldn't even get to halfway. Just how the hell was he supposed to get to a level like Alvin? Good question, but first let's see how your buddy does. Making his power known with some good luck wishes from the father, Jung tries his hardest, and with a resounding crunchy crack, the boy looks up excitedly from his swing, 10% of the way through, which is exactly half a hand. Oof, my boy did the best he could. The boys do be incredible, the both of them, but Kim especially is something else. He's already far surpassed the 5th generation clan rankers. With the both of them having passed the test here pretty well, they'd be well on their way to the mid-ground soon enough. But before that, they would need some pretty decent rest from their previous excursion to the Demon Woods, and Miss Louise is more than happy to provide. Wait, you know what? Never mind. They then all go upstairs to have something to eat. You're not helping me here, story, and are greeted with the full-course meal laid out on the table. Chicken, potatoes, I think there's even some fried rice balls up in there. They had earned at least this much for all they'd done for the clan. Later in the bath, after a long and plentiful meal of substance, Kim is taking a nice long bath where we get a good glimpse of just how freaking ripped this dude is. Dear God, dem abs don't lie. But he's reading his oh so precious diary over warm water and steam? Not the best idea, my dude. Not to worry. He's got magic armor to shield it from any damage. Finally, the two men get to take a load off and relax. Though, Jung does want to ask him about something that they were talking about earlier while eating. Apparently, Sifman was murdered while the two had been away in the demonic wood. With Sifman being murdered down in the deep underground dungeons, it appears by all accounts it was demons who did do the dirty deed. And those who were utterly annihilated within the midground would also have been done in by demons, using this logic. Is that a hint of fear I'm seeing in Jung's words? I hope not. But he is wondering what the demons and angels were up to, and whether they were all originally of this world. But the most important detail left to obscurity is the Holy Grail itself. Kim answers that he's actually met a demon before. Its name was Barlock, and it was summoned badly while within the tutorial, but it was still strong. Barlock spoke as if it had known something overarching about this world. You are just mere puppets. Think carefully. Consider what the strength you're gaining will cost you. Kim had absolutely no idea what it was talking about back then, but it was certainly undeniable that he was some form of enemy to humanity. And in Kim's opinion, you kill your enemies. That's all it's been up to right now, and that's how it will be all the way forward. But you can't help but be a teeny bit curious on what exactly those demons would be after in the human world. Doesn't matter though, they would just ensure that plan of theirs would never come to fruition. Kim keeps reading the pages of his diary while the two men begin to relax a little further into the bath. The murderers' clan war ended in a victory on their side, but you couldn't really call it that due to the amount of lives that were lost. Probably a net gain to demonic kind. Plus, it's not like the war had come to a close just yet. Victory was short-lived, even though it was as sweet as pie. Pie. And in a twist of fate, things began to pour out of the Grand Mountain territories and mid-ground. Horrible, unspeakable things that the OG Kim would rather not describe. Or probably more likely, eldritch horrors that he couldn't. Then comes a knock on the door. Someone has come looking for them in the dead of night again. This time, it's Luis. And in another corner of the human world, Arjan is having a game of, I don't know what that's called. A game of something with a white top clan leader, Pekchon. Luis hands them both some kind of black box which contains 2 items, both necklaces. Rewards for a matter regarding the Demon Woods. What? Did they actually do something there? Meh, moving on. They would be heading to a much worse slice of hell this time, and it'll be good to have just that one extra item of aid with them through the difficult time, yes? Appraising their new trinkets, Kim finds his will be a pretty good match since magic armor is a skill of his. We don't get to see its traits unfortunately, but we do see Jung's gift. Of the Heavens is basically a timed set of armor that you can call upon after storing magic energy. Arjan said to pick out something good for him, so they got the best picks in stock. These alone are about a year's worth of expenses for a small clan. Meanwhile, Arjan is still facing off in the silent board game within a very decorated room. Beck points out how the expedition group is leaving tomorrow, but it's not like Arjan is the one going, so there's no need for him to see them off. And if he was there, they wouldn't sneak out the best items to those 2 reserves. Oh, so he does know. Fitting he'd realize what they were doing. Beck then sighs out that it'd be better to pick out a proper team of professionals first, but Arjan counters that it's not like they could do much anyhow while being watched. The current state of humanity was all their fault to begin with. But hey, Walker Alvin is more than enough backup than any other members of the clan. There ain't anyone who could come close. Introducing the dude who would be traveling with them into the mid-grounds, Chun Pyong-taek, who I'll call Chun, is a 10-year survivor and someone who has been to the area already. The boys introduce themselves and are not thought highly of at first glance, but at least he'd have some serious backup when taking these novices into the demon-infested zone. For the time being, they would at least plan the route. That's Melin, the Grand Mountain, okay? There's the forest they'd be headed to, and then the map is blank beyond a certain area. Unexplored territory, eh? Press enter and type, I see dead people. Trust me, it never fails. Finding out an X on the map, there's the destination. And wouldn't you know it, that's where they need to go for the quest they got and got given. 2 alliterations, woo! One more for style points. Later when entering the forested zone, Jung asks if they can't just go through the sky. Answer, dragons exist. Don't be lazy, keep walking. A little later, and Chun asks if they could give a little test of their strength. So Kim haymakers a tree and leaves a dent. But what he isn't told is something obvious. Noise travels, and stuff here is hungry. Hello, test subjects. Small omnivorous bears, about 4 meters tall? That's roughly 13 feet for Americans. 10 of them are rapidly approaching your location, and I don't think it's because they want a date. The most common monster in this entire area and at the very bottom of the food chain. Kim and Jung had better be wary of those claws and fangs. These things can break through that reinforced wood with relative ease. Yet they get bashed up the wazoo by a few first-year bumpkins? Why didn't Alvin just tell him they were this strong in the first darn place? Counter question, would you have believed it if he did? Don't think so. They'd normally need a team of 3 rankers to bring down a group of 10 like this, yet these 2 were enough to do it on their own. Planning to help them at the right time, were you? I don't think you'd be a good enough help for them, my man. Speaking of which, Kim pipes up that if these are the weakest things in the forest, it wasn't much of a test now, was it? More a good warm-up. But they ain't trying to make fun of him, no. Kim is just blissfully unaware of what he had just brought down. But not to worry, there's no shortage of sneaky stuff silently slipping around among these woods. Yes, did it. Louisa asks if Jung is gonna clean that blade, but nah, it likes the blood caked on it. Jung had learned how to use Berserker in the Demon Woods as well, but he's still working out the control issues on that one. Fair enough, but once he can use this thing properly, it'll be all the more worth it. Having slaughtered more bears along the way, the group has been marching for around 6 days straight and barely sees any sign of the bears after a while. They can't seem to survive this deep in the forest, being at the bottom of the food chain. These things may just be smart enough to not waste their lives in futile attacks after seeing their friends slaughtered like sheep to the wolves. They're forever watching and waiting for these human prey to wear out. But then, at long blasted last, they reach the point of uncharted territory. Wood carvings into the trees prove everything they need to know. But something unseen is watching them from the gaze of a crystal ball. 2 archdemons, Ballad the male and Relesia the beauty. Ballad asks Turner who Kim is. Oh, well, this is unexpected. Interesting implications here. The horned man is reminded of the ones who killed Abraham and cut down their tree. But seeing how they got this far, tools are just tools. Though, they're not here to get in our way again, are they? Oh heck no, ain't having none of that. Luis also picks up on the bad vibes of demonic energy in the distance. Looks like demons have come here after all. And so has a giant mutated bear. Time to prove your worth, soldiers. Smashing its giant clawed hand down with a bang enough to break their formation, Jung is quick to try chopping its neck off with the giant's blade, whooshing magic surrounding the glowing orange sword. Only this thing is smart enough to nope out, bringing a paw up to swat the flea trying to bite. And it definitely impacts on something alright. The blast breaks the sound barrier on impact with Luis's quick cast blue barrier, angering the behemoth bear if you can even call it that. These things look more like lions had a baby with a Komodo dragon. Sean ain't got no clue what the fluff happened to this bear that gave it that kind of power, but they were now forced to stand back and leave it up to Luis and Alvin. He asks for her opinion and is told that out of everything ever faced by the Tower Clan, this thing seems like the undisputed strongest. Even a really skilled ranker would have a hard time facing off against something like it. That's a good thing though, because Alvin and her weren't just skilled rankers. As soon as she drops the shield, several of his sword swings go out despite a lack of movement to the naked eye, and very quickly it's sealed up in the chamber again until reality catches up with them. Alvin asks if she's gotten a bit lax with her control, as the reaction was a bit slow, but to halt any nonchalant chatter, Chun pulls out a familiar black marble from the skin of this giant, a demon seed. In Kim's diary, the entirety of the midgrounds had turned into demonic beasts thanks to that bloody tree planted in the middle. If they just got close enough to chop it down, a cataclysmic loss of life could be further avoided, making another win on the side of humanity and changing the course of the future one more time. Then he senses or spots something among the bushes while they appear to be covered in a luminescent flow from the forest, and grabbing his sword, an eyeball is cut in half. This shatters the crystal ball and infuriates Ballad while giving Luis a really bad feeling. The fact demons would be spying on them means something is here, something they don't want found. Their destination ain't too far away at least, but this time they ain't getting off that juicy plot hook so easy. For surrounding them now are, let's count, 3, 4, 5, 14, 16, 40. Around 40 giant mutated bears who ain't got the time of day for these humans. only a mouth of sharp teeth and grumbling stomachs waiting for a fresh kill. But as they retreat while letting Kim stay behind as voluntary bait, what else should fly over but a freaking dragon? We jump to the scene of Kim wanting to stay behind to test out his brand spanking new item, one necklace that lets him use the foolishness skill. Basically Danny Phantom up in this. Meanwhile, Archdemon Ballad is monitoring their magic and has noticed the group beginning to spread out. He's gonna go and kill Kim himself for breaking the crystal ball. Oh, how mature of you. But I guess someone powerful can do the childish revenge routine. For the moment, they would monitor Kim's progress and taking care of the animals he's acting as bait for. Running around like a mad thing and making bears dash in the trees, he can run through physical objects. Cool, no clip has been acquired. Guess my joke of Warcraft cheats wasn't too far off. Passing through the attacks of the bears is also a given, proven as much by the big glowing thing swinging its paws down on him like it's God's thundering wrath, sending stone and debris scattered over the forest floor with a giant crack where Kim's remains and blood should be. Sorry Cupcake, this ain't his first rodeo. Using time rewind alongside this, Kim is able to cut the beastie down to size and leap away back into the forest. It does take an uncanny amount of magic even with all his reductions and bonuses, but if used right, he won't take any damage in any battle at all. Ballad is even less pleased that all his bears are being turned into fancy rugs, while Relesia is excited at the prospect of someone who could possibly match their strength. Oh dear, if anime has taught me anything, a demoness getting all giddy is never a good sign unless they're on your side. Her creepy smile is more than enough to confirm my thoughts on this, and in perfect timing, Alvin's group arrive at the building these demons reside in. Meanwhile, Kim trudges through the forest glad that he's got out of that predicament alive, but not being able to find his way out. Alvin said he'd mark a way out, but too many signs of battle here. Oh, and a giant dragon that's landed behind you. But that'll sort itself out. Or not? That's a human? The dude stopped that blade with his bare freaking hand. How the hell is he even stronger than the creatures from before? Even stronger than this reinforced wood, which is saying something considering his full fist only left a dent. But picking up on a context clue, Kim deduces this dude ain't a human. That strike would have killed them if it was, admitted by the strange man himself. Nah, he's a dragon, my bro, and he's not pleased at being spoken to like this. It's an etiquette thing in Korea to speak to elders with a more formal tone. Kim bluntly asks why the dragon is helping them, but no, my dear protagonist, you got it all wrong. You're going to be helping him. Having reached the building they were likely being sent towards in the mid-grounds, Walker and his gang stand before the monolithic structure that houses those twin archdemons. First order of business, exploration. Chun tries to say that it's his first time finding a place like this in the wilderness, so it may take him, and nobody's listening. Sounds about right. Louise scans the inside of the structure with her magic, releasing the power in waves similarly to how a sonar acts. She don't have any talent for things like direct combat, but her magic power is basically immeasurable. While Chun is sad about being replaced, Louise is shocked by her find. There are demon trees here. That's right, plural, and enough for them to be considered a small bloody forest. In the room right next to these trees are the two demons and a human figure. If those are archdemons, they'd be a pain up his backside. But what the flying fluff is a human doing here? It had to be one member of the murderer clan they had yet to rat out. Louise begins to collapse from her overuse of magic. Having an aptitude doesn't make you immune to fatigue, and she yells out a warning of two demons headed their way. Relesia is as giddy as they come, overexcited at the arrival of her new toys. She begins looking for Alvin immediately, and on finding which one he is, attacks without a second thought. Feisty B we got here. Even for him, this is going to be one hell of a tough battle. Two archdemons was bordering the limits of his capability, even more so than Sifman I'd wager. And then to his utter surprise, out from the hole in the wall walks Turner, one of his presumed allies now turned enemy. Yeah, he was the traitor all along. Just be happy butterfly knives and D&D rules don't exist here. But while Ballad wants desperately to take out the dude who had destroyed his crystal ball moments prior, his bubble is a bit burst by the fact that no such protagonist is here. Back into the forest where Kim does indeed exist, the dragon is asking him to take out these demon trees. He'd send Kim on this glowy path with a bunch of magic sparkles to get there in time. Wondering why the heck dragons aren't intervening in the current events, Kim clenches his fist. They're depicted as one of the strongest and most mysterious creatures in mythology, period. Maybe they just hold no regard for the lives of puny little humans. But on the positive side, and though conditional, he's received help from the dragon race and the tragedy in his little book won't be coming to pass anytime soon. The dragon then vanishes up into the trees after name dropping the shrine and Arjan, leaving Kim no choice but to forge onwards through the foliage and hopefully get there in time. Meanwhile, Alvin is struggling to hold his own against Relesia, who seems to be toying with the poor dude and having her own twisted fun in doing so. Blocking her frontal attack with Louise acting on guard duty from behind with a barrier, Ballad just watches until Turner is yelled at with the question of why the flying fluff he betrayed humanity like this. Jung and Chun are doing their best to fight against him, but even I'm not sure of how much a chance they stand against someone who we haven't seen the combat prowess of. Ballad pokes some fun at Alvin and how he couldn't possibly have been the one to take down Sifman, looking pretty weak and definitely not taking down those 30 bears on his own. Meanwhile, the man is analyzing his opponents and squaring up their abilities and strengths. Relesia is the type to body reinforce and fight up close and personal. Yeah, I think we got that. But the worst part of this little duel is that her body regenerates at a speed he can't keep up with easily. She's already outpacing him in pure stamina. Louise has her hands full just giving him some support here, and then the two demons decide a combo attack is the order of the day. Both rush Alvin with intent to kill, and through the maze of shiny blue walls they go. Ballad notices that they've already exhausted Luis from her casting barriers everywhere and sending his infinitely extending tail to deal with that. One which is stopped dead and looks like it got a cramp from Kim grabbing it just centimeters before her face. Ballad finally meets his little rival and stands intimidatingly before him. This was the one who had destroyed his crystal ball and slaughtered the army of bears. This was the one who had caused them so much trouble with all three plans so far. Abraham, the original demon tree, and now here, right in front of his own darn face? Let's see how well he does facing off against an impossible enemy. Going directly to the attack, Kim uses his Fool's Necklace well to slide through the oncoming tail and get in front of Ballad like a full-speed airliner. Yes, Captain Obvious, this is one of those items the humans often like to use. And spewing purple flames like demonic vomit ain't gonna save you from a good slice and dice. Kim plants a firm cut on this guy's tail, and it's just barely enough to leave a small cavity, one which is already beginning to close up. Ballad then asks how he can feel demonic energy radiating off Kim. There's something different to this human in comparison to all the rest he's faced. Oh well, it'll just be an answer to be discovered on examination of the corpse. Hellfire begins to blaze around the scary enough foe who isn't looking to give up anytime soon. Is this demon burning his own body? The bright blue-purple flames may suggest as such, but no, he's got something else in mind. Out of the hellfire comes a warrior atop their horse. So your combat form and armor, if you can call it that, leaves you more exposed than your regular clothing? Alright mate, have fun with that. Holding a giant lance of flame and licking some off his hand, claiming they're tasteless, duh, it's fire. Ballad does get a bit more excited since this form is much better for killing than the formal one. Meanwhile, as he initiates the Dance of Death with Kim, Jung and Chun are facing off against an increasingly annoyed Turner with the Clash of Blades. Chun gets in behind Jung and slides a punch through Turner's guard, recoiling the man into a skid and actually leaving a shaped dent on his body. He'd have to find a way to end this, and fast, because he might end up 6 feet under if he takes longer than them. Stealing himself with a hefty sigh, demonic energy begins to flow from his body as two horns start to pop out of his head, eyes glowing white during the brief transformation. It doesn't seem like he was ever really human to begin with. Cool shoulder pads though. While Louise is panting on the ground from exhaustion, mind's out of the gutters, you know who you are. Her body won't listen to anything the big brain has to say. She had used so much magic power in one swoop that it's left her completely drained. For now, it was all she could do to replenish her energy for any fights they may have coming up. While she's doing that, Turner's asked in the heat of war why he's abandoned his humanity like this and how he plans to return to the real world. I don't think he does, mate. While talking and losing focus, Chun gets pushed back with the boxing skills of his foe and eventually gut punches hard enough to break the wall he flies into. Jung is worried about his newfound friend, but he gotta concentrate or he'll get the same treatment. On another battlefield, Alvin is trading repeated blows with Relesia and being forced to guard by each one. This girl ain't no slouch. But he does claim that this ain't an easy fight for him. Not that he's already tired like she thinks at first, wanting only to gorge herself more in the adrenaline and rush, but because her regeneration is not wavering. He had thought that if he kept cutting away at her, the regen would reach a critical point and cooldown, but nah. Even if he hacks her apart, things just keep coming back. However, her neck, heart, and head. 3 vital points on any living entity if they have either, so it may be worth it aiming for those. All the while he's monologuing, Kim is trying not to get flambéed by Ballad's fire. Wonder how many random objects this bard has flirted with. While he is taunted by the powerful Archdemon, Kim seems to be fast enough to get around those attacks. Getting over the protagonist, Ballad shoves his lance down and a torrent of flame bursts forth to cover the ground in a haze of hellfire, shrouding everything in sight. Except Kim, who has managed to slip above Ballad using his stepping stone technique with the magic armor. But it's not enough, for apparently the horse can breathe fire too. But those attacks seem to be weak enough for the armor to stand a chance, allowing him to survive the blow head on. But in a clever maneuver, using both his stepping and time rewind together, Kim is able to disappear from view and get through the fire, landing a clean cut down the demon's stomach. This one has only put his back into it when he was sure to win, meaning he doesn't have much combat experience beyond cheaty tactics using his already overwhelming power. But the moment someone even close to imagined strength comes along, well, I'll let the story speak for itself here. Do you just gush out flames when you feel cornered? Do you think that makes you all powerful or something? Clever tactic. He's easily angered, so push him to the limits and watch the fireworks go off. Use his predictability against him. And just like that, using his new skill of distortion, Kim ends this with a single cleave through the demon and his horse. After all, true strength belongs to the victorious. Once the threat has been adequately dealt with and Kim stands over the rotting corpse of an Archdemon, satisfied with his kill, the man falls back and lands on his butt in exhaustion. He's lucky all those blows had hit, and that he'd even come up with a strategy like this in the first place. If he had missed the last attack, he'd be the one where Ballad was now, back in hell. But if an Archdemon was this strong to be waving their strength around like a toy while still being a major nuisance, then what are the freaking Demon Kings like? Looking over his shoulder to survey the battlefield, it don't seem like he need to help anyone. They all held their own pretty darn well. Relesia is battered, bruised, and beaten with an arm missing and torn wings, wondering just how she had been brought to such a state by a mere human. Her regeneration had gone down the drain, and above all else, her movement had changed. The second she heard he was aiming for certain areas of her body, the defense all piled onto those, leaving the rest wide open. She's a complete and utter novice to real combat, isn't she? Only enjoying the murder, not thinking tactfully because she never had to. Now which of her arms should he lop off this time? And in saying that, he proves his point by tricking her again and putting the blade straight down her middle. Where did that girl learn to fight? WikiHow? And Jung isn't doing too bad holding off Turner either, having activated his berserker mode in a last second ditch to get the dude off his back. Needless to say, it worked. His blows are far stronger than Turner's and he pins his prey to the cold forest floor with one hand, with Turner narrowly avoiding getting skewered. But while he does throw Jung off him with the sword to the gut, it's not enough to stop the scar that comes off the scratch to his left eye. Quick, get him! Oh wait, what? Turner has thrown down his sword in resignation. With both his masters dead, there's zero chance he'll survive this. Not on his own. Before Jung can kill their only reliable source of information, he's knocked out with a hand chop to the neck and nervous system by Kim. If Turner wants to live, he'll answer the questions they have. Why did he betray them? Well, they'll all find out soon enough. That them humans cannot hope to win the war. But before he can elaborate properly, the final breath is drawn with the words, "You might have won today, but in the end, you will lose this war." And with that, he dies. The group isn't sure what to think at this point, so instead, they just head inside the dungeon. Finding a big door, there's a massive hallway of runes on the other side. All of which Kim seems to be able to read? Well now. It must be thanks to the shackles of Zahar. Just as the time with Abraham, those shackles aren't just any items, says Alvin to the guy who has it fused to his wrist. Chun and Jung are excited, the latter having woken back up from his long sleep. Seems like the berserker drifted away when he got KO'd. But getting to the point, it'll take a while for Kim to decipher all this, and while he does, they would head out to the demon trees and give him the old chop chop. Having Louise lead the way to this forest of black marbles, which any child would be jealous of, she takes them to a wall where Alvin decides to make his own door. What they find is what you'd expect from the description given before. A small forest of those evil trees which are guarded by the bear things from earlier. I'ma call them Godzilla. Oh, what's that? Okay. Apparently Japanese copyright lawyers are scary, so let's just stick with bears. Louise traps them in barrier boxes again, leaving all the hard axe work up to Alvin. The alpha of this team grips his sword firmly and bring it to bear on the wooden mammoth of a trunk, slicing it clean in half without so much as a sweat. And to think it had taken Jung all day to do what he just pulled off in a few seconds flat. Scary strength. And in the sake of interest, we hop skippity jump out of the temple and straight to Arjan saying hello to an old friend of his, Kim Jin-suk, who I will just name Jin to not confuse with the MC. Meanwhile, Arjan is told to stuff the pleasantry somewhere unpleasant, and he's asked if something has happened. I believe the key has appeared. And as an abridged backstory to the so-called key, each race has only one given to them. If you lose that key, which is a specified person in the race, you lose your chances at the wish-granting Holy Grail. All this comes out as Jung and Alvin finish chopping down the trees. Oh dear god, those stumps are huge. At least the bears have started to go away. By killing the trees that infected them, the control and rampage has been taken out as well, leaving just regular old angry animals. And to top it off, they had taken out a traitor and 2 archdemons. Now they just have to wait for Kim to finish reading up on history inside that passage, and they could go home. While they relax a little for the first time in forever, Chun takes out his giant map and begins to do his assigned job of cartography for this area. After Kim returns, the group asks him about what was written there, and then we skip to the return, where the gang has just walked back into the Tower Clan HQ and require an immediate meeting with Arjan. Now sitting with a cup of warm tea in her icy hands, Louise can't seem to calm herself from the tension riding in the air. Things ain't over just yet, no matter how calm the waters may seem. Chun had left since the meetings no longer had anything to do with him, and here we learn the name of the murder clan's leader, Emily. No last name given. Not much is known about her save the name and betrayal of humanity. And now in the meeting room, Arjan is finally getting questioned on what they saw in that temple. He's asked as directly as can be, "Is there something you're hiding from us?" There was a dragon who had said he was hiding something. Yes, they had gone to the temple. Yes, they had seen the room of hieroglyphs. But the most important little detail here, yes, Kim had been able to read it. Arjan bows his head in shame and a request for forgiveness, for the first generation had been lying to everyone all this time. They probably thought that just by winning the war, the Holy Grail would be theirs. Nope. We now know that's not the truth anyway. Back in his day, the first gen were so strong they just didn't have to worry about any fight. There's nothing to stand against them. And getting to that temple was a cakewalk. Cake. But in the process of learning who the key was and being overjoyed, they had come across a dragon. Having never felt any sense of fear from things before this, they just treated it like any other enemy. Bad idea. They did succeed in taking it down, but the cost was their key. It was made clear in abundance what would happen to any race that lost their key. Thus the first gen hit the fact and over time, stopped and halted all their activities. Why fight for a war with no goal? The human race would have ripped itself apart trying. But to keep order, they formed the clans and kept everything running semi-smoothly. But now that their hope is back, it seems there was no need to stay down anymore. It's time Arjan and the others on top return to active duty. If Arjan ain't given up, Alvin would be by his side in the fight. But now the three men have a toast in the clan member's office. 3 mugs clinking together with smiles for the first time in who knows how long. Oh, and what would Alvin think about becoming the clan head? That's a nope. Meanwhile, in another part of the world late at night, Emily is being told by a robed demon that their plans in the midground had failed completely. Alvin Walker, Luis, and the 2 new reserve members of the Tower clan were the ones to blame. Yeah, so what? She don't care. This information was apparently a courtesy from the demon, which she takes as an insult. You know, if you chop up a person from their feet up to the hips in fist-sized chunks, they tend to die. Yeah, that's how blood loss works. I wonder how long a demon would live. Would they last until the heart is cut out? In essence, since they don't need her anymore, this little minion before her is disposable. Goodbye, demon. And hello, sleeping Kim, one who isn't seeming to hear the knocking at his door until Alvin's voice accompanies it. Groggily, he gets up and goes over to open it, being greeted by a smiling Mr. Walker, who makes some polite conversation. The fact that Kim was tired enough to pass out from all the events as of recent showed just how little sleep he really got through the tension. But to be so fast asleep to not notice someone knocking? Was he really that careless? No, my man, that's just hardcore burnout. Everyone got a rest every so often, even myself and James. Or if he even sleeps at all. Anyway, Arjun wants to speak to him downstairs in around 2 hours, giving Kim enough time to surface and reapply his game face. Alvin leaves the room to head back down and give his report, though Kim suspects that there's only one reason Arjun could call him downstairs right now. Their next move had been decided. He looks down at the shackle of Zahar and much to his amazement, it's completely changed again. This time it's way fancier and doesn't look like a Lovecraftian crystal bound itself to his wrist. Its new stats aren't any joke either. Magic amplified by 60%, consumption reduced by 20%, and free use of any magic absorbed. After a skip to the meeting, Kim enters the room with Alvin to find Arjun and Jinsok sitting at a large table set with white cloth. The 2 men enter and are introduced to the infamous Jin, the strongest of the first generation and the one unaffiliated with any clan. A living legend breathing right before his eyes. Arjun starts by saying that he spoke of Kim with the others of his time, yet the first to show up was this guy. He said that he'd be the one to mentor Kim, presumably so that humanity doesn't lose, yet again, its shot at getting home with the Holy Grail. But of course, whether he accepts this generous offer is up to him. Lead a horse to water and all that. If this is the one to tutor him, however, it'd be his best shot at getting to the very top of the chain and getting his wife and daughter back. Accepting the offer then and there, he sits down a little shaky still, but confident. Then a good query comes to mind. Why were they meeting in the clan building? Could it be that someone wasn't supposed to catch them all together? Yes, that is precisely the case. There are traitors in the clan. Traitors among us. There, are you 12-year-olds happy now? Good. Besides Turner, there are also others like Emily who were a problem. But for now, they weren't Kim's problem. Arjun would start moving again and making the rounds to deal with this problem in-house while the protagonist goes off for a second training montage. As this discussion was complete, Jin recommends that they start prepping to leave immediately. Jung would be tagging along to not upset the status quo and alarm people of imminent change. But while Kim tries his hand at being a gentleman, Jin doesn't really seem to enjoy the prospect of being touched. Anti-social legend of a hero? Check. Later, while walking out of town in the cold and dark dead of eve, Jung asks who the guy in front of them is. Kim gracefully brushes the question off until they reach the mountainous destination they strive for. Upon arrival at the cliffs outside Troom in broad daylight, 3 men are caught leaping up the rocky face like mountain goats on certain illegal substances. One of them is far above and ahead of the others, who lag behind the speed and power of their soon-to-be teacher in the arts of combat, among other useful things. This was a really tough place to get to, and it was far away from the demon forest, meaning there weren't many people even willing to attempt scaling something so rash. Finally seeing the top after what must have been a few grueling hours of sweat and muscle burning, they find a fairly flat plain with a small house sitting just ahead. This is where the elegant legend lives out his days. Wonder how much brandy he's got. This is the place that even the fairly skilled would have much debate and trouble reaching. Miracle they could keep up with him, I'd bet. When Jung again pokes his fatherly friend for an answer as to who the heck they've just been following for a full night, he's told the honest truth. Just the name is enough to make Jung double take. Oh man, I can smell those cogs turning from here. Someone get the extinguisher. It'll be a good trial for the both of them on improvement, and a great aid if they got what they needed from this place by being invited. They'd be staying here at least 3 months and at most 6, because neither of them had the skill to get remotely close to the Holy Grail. It exists between the borders of the angel and demon territories. Forget getting into the demon territory. Getting past the midgrounds is going to be hard for you, chimes Jin from memory. The men hurry inside and get a good long look at where they'll be training for the next few months. A storeroom full of every kind of weapon, from shields and all kinds of swords to bows and arrows. Kim is tossed a blade to train with, one on which he demonstrates his weapons knowledge. This isn't a longsword like the one he's used to. The slight blade curve and one-sided edge makes it a falchion, a form of saber. Impressive, seems the author did their homework. He's then asked the simple question of why he's using a straight sword, to which the answer is not sufficient. He started with it because it was easy. Jin had used every single weapon in that room, and he found that the thing which suited him best was a straight sword. Knowing what feels right in your hands is the first lesson to any great warrior, for your tool is an extension of your body and soul.